use of this particular, billion-dollar industry in the state. It's an invasive bug, and it's dangerous. And that's all that I was talking about. I was educating, like I educate everybody on all the other bugs that I talk about. Today we talked about another butterfly. So I was just giving information. About the lantern. I was giving information about the lanternfly. That's it. Today we talked about the silver-spotted skipper. Okay, yesterday we talked about the golden. There's different. We talk about different bugs all the time, Levy. I didn't call the bugs off the bugs. I'm sorry. I didn't even kill the bugs. Sorry. I didn't even kill it. And it's weird that you keep saying that I did.
It seems like you changed the subject of the room. Common sense on Clubhouse. And God Almighty, do I agree with that. He and I have very divergent views on Trump specifically. And yet, he has a new room called the Brain Trust. And we have rational discussion. More rooms like that, where Alan, who wants to impeach Trump, and of course I strongly disagree. Somehow I think, well, Alan and I have maintained a degree of mutual respect despite our disagreements about the headlines, if you will. What Alan and I need to do is get underneath the headlines, understand the underlying problems, and then argue about the solutions. But we first have to agree on what the hell the underlying problems are. He thinks it's Trump. I think it's much deeper and broader than that. And that's what we need more of on Clubhouse.
Yeah, but you represent a time where politics was a little bit less dishonest than it is today.
Politics in my era were as divisive. My God, I voted for Goldwater, for Christ's sakes. The first time I could vote in the United States. I mean, my God, our politics is divisive.
But the intention,
the unity in solving the problems,
intentions were right. No matter the division.
It doesn't change that much, but the media and social media has created so much noise and so many different platforms that you cannot escape it, and that is what's changed.
I think Bibi just said something very fascinating, and I wish we could just listen for a minute to why she believes that the intent of Goldwater and the intent of Trump are different.
The intent of Trump is to save America, to make it great again.
Well, okay, but I don't know.
Every politician represents an era. Just like fashion, just like art, just like celebrities, just like everything else. It will always be the case. It's all interlinked. So if Trump is in power today, it's because the people who elected Trump made Trump, right? He was a TV host. So was Hegseth. This is the era we live in today. Nothing is any more different than it was. The only thing that's changed is, I don't know exactly what that is, but there's more.
Nothing's new under the sun.
There is less innocence.
There's nothing new under the sun. Everything that is has already been. Your opinion just sucks. That's the problem.
And therefore, oppositions also have to be more ruthless within the way they perceive things, the way they talk about things, the way they express things. And that's what it is. It's like you can't have so what is it? So the left,
it's like you just keep going and you go and you keep talking about nothing, you just keep going on and on.
Who's like, oh no, you can't be deporting people. It's like, it's against human rights. But then at the same time, pulling off the legs of a fucking bug because it's a non-native. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, come on. Can I have a discussion with Bibi here for a minute? Because she's saying something that is interesting, and I'd like to help with her point of view a little bit. If Anson mentioned the Goldwater election, now that was 1964, and in that election, television was just in its infancy, and there was a commercial that was made for that campaign, for the Goldwater campaign, that you can find on YouTube. And it was about a little girl that was in a field counting flowers, and an atom bomb was dropped on that little girl. And I'm not even sure that I've got the visual right. I'm sure Anson remembers the commercial. The point I'm trying to get to is that what is different, to some extent, but we can comment on what technologies have significantly impacted the change in generation. And I would submit to you that the technology has been a part of the American political system for at least 80 years.
Scott and Howard, I just put them up to the stage, and I really look forward to their comments because I think this is a really important discussion, guys.
Anson, thank you. And Alan, I just posted in chat a copy of that famous Goldwater ad. I want to say, though, did it come from the LBJ campaign?
Yes, it did. And I guess it's a little confusing because you're absolutely right. It did come from the LBJ campaign, but it was objected to so widely that LBJ took it off the air. I think it was only run once or twice. And I think that I love this point that you're making, because what we had in 1964 that we do not have now was a strong FCC that acted as a neutral arbitrator. And Ronald Reagan, who I think in many ways was a great president and in many ways was not, he was sure as heck not as conservative as many people think. That's not what this room is about. But he tore apart the FCC, and I think we are suffering greatly because of it. And thank you for posting the video, because I think it's great.
Well, I'm going to jump in here just for a second, because I marvel at the fact that Alan, Scott, and Howard are on the stage and listening to my bullshit. And God forbid, guys, have at it. Because we need. Wait a minute. Don't interrupt me, Howard. Scott. We need rational discussions, and I swear to God, I'll listen to everything you guys have to say, and I may respond, but I'm going to give you every opportunity to address the fundamental. I'm not talking about the specifics of federal forces in D.C. or Trump is a 33,000 liars or whatever. I'm talking about the fundamental things that we're just failing to be able to resolve in this country. Have at it, Scott, Howard. This is a great room.
And so, the problem with Alan and Scott and a lot of people that I'm trying to point out is that we're $37 trillion in debt. So if you're going to complain about the FCC in 1968, I got to tell you, it's 2025. We're $37 trillion in debt and have $100 trillion in unfunded debt liabilities. If you gentlemen aren't fiscally responsible or conservative in your own life, you're going to have to get fiscally conservative for your government, because
Wait, Alan. I'm talking a hell of a lot more about fiscal responsibility and all that. I'm talking about what I see as the fundamental decline of this country. It's been going on for 25 years, and I'm looking for solutions. And I want to hear Alan, Scott, and Howard, and I don't want to hear objections about specifics right now.
I was in a room the other day, and I don't think you were there, Anson, where I was trying desperately to make the point that your in spite of a significant disability, I'm better off than many, many Americans because I worked very hard and I'm actually quite conservative. But I absolutely insist on truthfulness. And that's where I think you and I may have a problem.
By the way, more truthful than me?
Yes, I am.
Well, it's just like your opinion, Alan.
No, I do. Well,
Yeah, it's your opinion.
Well, hold on.
Mojo.
Have you come into other rooms? Have you come into other rooms under a different name?
Yeah, I've got a lot of accounts here. The point is, I'm sharing information in my opinion, and I don't know why people think your opinion supersedes other people's opinions. It's just
how
opinion.
the fuck you got away with manipulating and getting away for so long on this fucking app.
Well,
Doing
you see,
what the
you
fuck
can't tell me how to use the app. I use it the way I want to use
but
it.
it's
You
not gonna
use it
end
the way
well.
you want to use it, and therefore it's just your opinion that you don't like the way I use it.
No, because I don't know what your stand is. Like, what are you supporting? What are you
I don't know, let's create a room tomorrow or maybe Monday.
No,
Let's come up
Mojo,
with a topic right now for Monday afternoon.
I've done this, Vivi, and what I've discovered is, number one, Mojo would have voted against the big bad bill. Maybe not for the same reasons that I would have, but if he's going to run for Congress, he needs to be held accountable for what he says. Number two,
Yeah, and Alan, I was placating you when I said that Congress should arrest Donald Trump. I was making fun of you, but you were too dim to understand that I was teasing.
No, I wasn't too dim. I understood that you
You're
might be teasing me.
interrupting a discussion that, for some reason, I'm not even able to participate in. So you're interrupting, as you always do, Mojo. Let other people speak.
I want to finish the point, Mojo. I have you on record, on a recording, saying you would impeach Donald Trump, and you can't deny that. I knew what you were doing. I wasn't that dim. Thank you.
Again, I was making fun of you, and it's illegal to make recordings of people on this app. Alan, don't
It
you
is
know?
not illegal. Mojo, stop. That room was recorded. You know it was
All
recorded.
right, well,
It was documented as being recorded.
replay. I'm going to go listen to it and see what I said. Please hold.
Okay, well, that's going to take an hour and a half, so we can go on.
I'm just saying, if you've got Trump derangement syndrome, you got American derangement syndrome. Trump was voted in by the people to rectify the problem.
Hanson,
To
you throw him off or I
to
leave.
rectify the.
Okay, goodbye. I'm not running this room, so Hanson, if you can't throw him off the stage, I can
Rage quitting, Alan. Don't rage quit.
I'm trying to mute you, and I don't know how to do it. Scott, Howard,
When you say the decline in 25 years or 27 years, what answer specifically, like, what decline are you talking about? Because that could mean a lot of things. I'm just...
okay. Obviously, 25 years ago, we had a balanced budget, about $1 trillion or so national debt. Look at us today. Look at our inability to successfully resolve the conflict against terrorism. Bush said it was a generational war. We're still fighting it. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, a military disaster as far as I'm concerned in terms of the military. The geostrategic instability in the world, Scott, you've heard me say this, but based on my experience, from my professional experience from 1965 up to whatever, and I was on the tip of the spear of nuclear deterrence. That has been degraded, and I firmly believe, that we are closer to nuclear war today, not because of geostrategic instability. And part of that, a significant part of that, is the American inability to create stability, which I call deterrence. Deterrence is weaker now than it's ever been in my professional lifetime. I believe we're in trouble, and we're getting deeper in trouble on those broad subjects. And that's why I make the comment that I do, and thank you for not interrupting. And I welcome your ability, your response to those kinds of
I think a couple things. So I think I agree about the deterrence thing, and I think if I were Ukraine right now, I'd be trying to get a nuke. And everybody, if I was any other country that was anxious about its defenses, I would be trying to get a nuke. Because, I think that's a problem. But I would say, so I think if we're saying the past 25 years of decline, that's one way to frame it, and I think it's not unfair. But I think what we're seeing right now, there's a scholar, Gary Gersel, who's written The Rise and Fall of the Neoliberal Order, right? And his work, he thinks that we have these political orders. The last major one in the 20th century, he thinks, was the New Deal, right? New Deal liberalism. And what you have when you have a political order is it annexes the opponents, right? So what happens is you get, for instance, you get after FDR, what does Eisenhower come in and do? Does he become a spendthrift and clamp down the state? No, he expands the state, right? He expands infrastructure. He's part of the New Deal order, right? So the New Deal order gives way to neoliberalism, right? Which sort of begins on the cusp of Jimmy Carter. Reagan really brings it in. And that's where, markets are seen as superior to government. It's the area, and it includes, that's the new order because it's sort of, you look at Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton is much closer to the breadth of victory of Reaganism, right? Clinton was really a Reaganite. So that order, the neoliberal order, is eroding. Okay, it's tattering, it's coming to a close. I think a couple things have caused it to weaken. One, you look at the financial crisis of preceding Obama, that really crushed people's confidence in the global economy, in the neoliberal sort of free trade, free market stuff. You look at Iraq and Afghanistan have eroded people's confidence in internationalism and international agreements and sort of international law and international interventions, right? And I think also the faith in democracy. China's success, rapid success, without democracy, right? Makes the Davos crowd and stuff enamored with China, and there's cynicism about democracy, just culture in a cultural way. So I don't know, maybe it's decline, but I just think there's a fundamental paradigm shift that Trump has responded to, right? That Trump is the right wing response, the populist response to these problems, right? And so I think Trump is pretty effective as far as he's reacting against all of the erosions that we see declining in the 2000s, sort of pre-Obama. Now, I think the left hasn't come up with a response to the end of neoliberalism. We ran the neoliberal candidate. We ran Kamala Harris, right, running around with Liz Cheney saying the neoliberal system isn't that bad and Trump's going to blow it up. People wanted it. People wanted it blown up. That's the thing. People wanted the system blown up. And we didn't offer somebody to blow it up, right? We offered. Now, it's interesting. I'm not a Mamdani fan. I don't like the anti-Semitism. But he is closer to the sort of response to an erosion of neoliberalism, right? So how do we sort of get the deficit straight? People don't care about that. I don't know that it is possible because nobody gets votes on it, right? Nobody has the political will to do it because it's not what people care about. People care about, now again, we might want to say that they're concerned about prices. They're going to be, that stuff's all going to be bad when the inflation skyrockets and all stuff. But that's abstract for people. So I don't think that debt is something that will be dealt with in a reasonable way because there's just not, it's it's not something that's existentially or practically a concern of any American.
So Scott, what
Wait,
about
Alan.
Yeah.
A major breakthrough, as far as I'm concerned. Scott seemed to agree with my assertion that American, whatever you want to call it, social fabric, geopolitical influence, whatever you want to call it, the debt deficit, America has been in decline for 25 years or more. The question is how not, let's accept that agreement. And that decline has occurred over how many, Republican in America that we need to address. And it's not going to come from a democratic recession or things change, interest rates go up 1% or 5%. Oh, looking in hindsight, during the Cold War, Scott, there was far more unity in this country than there has been since 9/11. I firmly believe that. Why? And what can we do to fix it?
Yeah, I think that the advantage you have in the Cold War, right, is you have an enemy, right, and you have an ideological enemy, right? There's a way of life that is so opposed, and with a chief competitor, a superpower, right? We had a superpower rival, which did bring the country up. I think there's a really interesting book, The Clash of Civilizations. It's an older book, the Huntington, but it's well worth reading if you don't know. And Huntington's writing in the 80s, I think it was late 80s, but he was sort of saying after the fall of communism, he's thinking, he called that the age of ideology, right? That the age of ideology gives way to civilizational clash. It's no longer communism versus capitalism, the Western capitalist free society versus the Eastern Empire. It's several different cultural regions, right? You've got Eastern Orthodox Russia, you've got the Christian sort of democratic West, you've got China, you've got he breaks into like these socio-cultural orders. And he says what's going to happen is all the conflicts will be in the border regions. He predicts Ukraine in the 80s. He's like, because Ukraine doesn't exist in this sort of Judeo-Christian West, the Catholic Protestants or West, or the Eastern Orthodox Slavic East. It's on the border. So I think with the civilizational conflict, it is tougher. Also, I think pluralist multiculturalism makes things harder. It's interesting when they do studies. There's a study in England. It's shocking how many, and you can find correlative studies like this among American millennials and stuff. It's shocking how many people don't think it's important to live in a liberal democracy, right? And there's the relativism is seeped into democratic ways of life. So all these things are real. And at the same time, our GDP is doing pretty well. Like this is the thing about decline. Like we're far surpassing growth in the rest of the world, right? I mean, this is the interesting thing about Trump's narrative sometimes, that we're this victim nation, right? That everyone's taking advantage of us. We're still doing far better than even China and anything close to our global competitors. So, I mean, I think we might be facing a decline in political culture as far as being able to do big things. I agree with that. I mean, part of it is our system is designed to need substantial majorities, right? You can't really run America on narrow majorities the way you can a Westminster parliamentary system like Canada or the UK or something, right? So to do big things in America, you can't
agree that there's a major decline. But everything you've said is a description of why we've been unable to stop that decline. I have some specific ideas. argue those. Well, for example, I have said for over 2 decades now that the K-12 education system in America is a national security crisis. We are dumbing down America. Now, we can debate that forever, but that's a specific thing that I believe we need to fix. We need to better educate the citizens of America. I think you'd agree with that, and then we can argue about how best to do that. I believe there is a smog over our major metropolitan areas. And I don't mean environmental pollution. I mean a degradation in homelessness, graffiti, respect for law and order, crime rate, whatever. I don't want to argue the specifics. I just make the assertion that our major metropolitan areas have gone downhill in terms of social fabric, etc., over the last 25 years. And I'm looking for solutions for that. And at least I want to agree that those are problems. And then we can debate with all the vigor you want to debate the best way to solve them. But we have to agree that they are problems and not just talk about how hard it is to fix the problems. I want to get down to specifics about what I think needs to be done to fix the problems, you think needs to be done to fix the problems, and have a rational discussion on that. And that's what I'm trying to do.
When you say something about urban decline, right? Like
I think it's terrible. I think urban decline is terrible.
Like I live in a pretty major city, right? I live in the 6th largest city in the country, Philadelphia. I live right in the middle of it. I mean, I can walk to City Hall. That's complex because crime is down in Philadelphia, right? Crime is down in most of the country, right? Now, so I wouldn't say, with regard to crime, Philadelphia is in drastic decline. Now, I will say we're facing a public transit crisis, and that's a mini crisis. I mean, which is a great public transit system in the country, is facing. Harrisburg wants to defund us. Urban life, it's complex, right? I mean, so I wouldn't say my city. With regard to drugs, yes, there's a part of the city that's Kensington, which is worldwide famous. There were documentaries about it. So we do have an opioid crisis. So I mean, I just think overall decline it's tough to know. It's tough for me to comment on that unless I know what we're talking about, right? Because I think it's just a complex description, like what's going on in, say, an urban center like.
Okay, Alan, go ahead. Scott and I exchanged legitimate views back and forth. Basically, I think I heard him say that he's not very worried about the decline or the smog, as I call it, in Philadelphia. And therefore, it's not a priority that we need to address. That's a detail. Scott and I can argue about that. I'm sure as hell don't live in Philadelphia. But go ahead, Alan.
Vincent, thank you. And thank you for running an organized discussion. I really appreciate that. It's not an easy skill. Thank you. I would like to go back to what Scott was talking about, and you were talking about also, about when things were running well. And I would point to the time you were talking about in 1992 to 2000, we actually did have a balanced budget. And this is not Democrat or Republican, but the person who was president was somebody I voted against twice. And yet he was a competent president. And I think part of the reason he was a competent president is he had run a state for many years that had to have a balanced budget.
And I agree. I support Bill. I like Bill Clinton.
You also put a lot of cops on the street.
Yeah, and I think
I agree with that. Good for him.
real problems we have is this horrible attack on competency. I appreciate very much, Anson, you trying not to make it about Trump, so I'm not going to go there, but I do think that once this presidency is over, we should, and I wrote a paper in college on this, we should change the Constitution to limit who can run for president, because the captain of the ship, Anson, does matter.
I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there, legitimately, because I get the power of being a moderator, thank God. You and I absolutely, if I could point to the most basic fundamental reason I think America is in decline, it's the lack of competency. And that is related to what I call the national security crisis of K-12 education. We lack the competence across all parties to be able to figure out how to move forward in times of great stress.
We agree. So we agree on a hell of a
We
lot more than-
agree on competency. Now we can argue whether it's Democrat or Republican, but we can agree on we have a terrible lack of competency at the highest levels in this country.
And that is a function of experience. That's where we may disagree. I don't know whether you would disagree with that or not, but I say it's a function of experience. When politics, and Scott and I may get into it over this, and I don't want to argue with him because he's my friend, and I appreciate his help when we have it, but I do think that your objection to his imitation of Trump is based on a feeling that politics should not be entertainment. It is serious, and I don't know
We
where
should
that
have a basic fundamental respect for the office of the presidency, not mocker it, but offer constructive alternatives to what that office is trying to do.
I could not mock the office any more than the occupant does. I mean, that would be impossible.
Well, Scott, that's where you and I disagree, and you know how, it's really got.
Trump doesn't make a mockery of the office during Elephant Anson.
And I'd like to acknowledge the other mods on the stage as well. And also welcome Jason and Double and Bima back to the room too. Y'all please feel free to also jump in on the conversation.
I'm sorry.
Anson, when Donald Trump is asked by, and this is a favorable interviewer, this isn't a gotcha question. Or no, maybe it wasn't. I'm sorry, it was CNN or something. They asked him, he showed you, he had the Declaration of Independence, right, up. And they said, what does this document mean? And he says, it's like a document of unity and love. I mean, love. I mean, this is the most disturbing. I mean, it's first off, half the things Jefferson said in there, a lot of the things weren't true. But when you have such a vacuous answer about one of the founding documents of the country, that's kind of a mockery of the office. I mean, right, when you're that ignorant of basic American history, which I'll say for Putin. I watched Tucker's whole interview with Putin, and I thought, you know what? It'd be great to have a leader that knew the history of the country, which Putin does. I mean, I think there's just so many things that Trump does. They're just. This isn't like
Scott,
saying everything the guy does.
Scott, I'm gonna shut you down because somebody said other people want to get into this, so let's let Jason and everybody else weigh in. I apologize for
No problem, buddy.
And I certainly don't mind the discussion continuing, but I want to make it a point to acknowledge that there are also other people on the stage, and if they have anything that they want to interject, they're more than welcome.
Well, I do think Anson is right to highlight a decline in the U.S. over the past 25 years, and it's not necessarily going to be something you can locate in an economic decline, a military decline necessarily, or a decline in our institutions. But I think there is a decline in public actually try to address political problems and political concerns. And it may be, I think, one hard touch for people proposing changes is that we have to ask ourselves, given that there was a decline, then something solutions that aren't ultimately about restoring some kind of balance or sorting out or addressing the causes of the decline were proposed. A lot of people basically who don't support the right, they are not conservative in the most liberal sense of, or in the broadest sense of that word, which is applying old solutions to new problems, which is to say using time-tested strategies. And so they propose all kinds of crazy things. They really want to uproot and undermine the American system. They don't see it that way, but it's what they're doing, and it is a problem. For example, qualifications for office. We've never had qualifications for office. Why all of a sudden do we need the president to be qualified? Targeting hate speech, where the countries with freedom of speech, people are worried about fascism, whatever. The countries with freedom of speech are those the countries that went Nazi. And back in the 40s, the U.S. was so much better at policing speech, and that's why we didn't go Nazi. I mean, there are a lot of ideas coming from that side of the aisle that are about destroying America. They're fundamentally about destroying America. They're about destroying an open and decentralized society. And that's something we gotta put an end to. And that means ultimately destroying the capacity of the government to do that. And so Trump, he is, there's this silver lining. There will be almost no federal government left, hopefully, when he's done. And he'll be able to entertain crazy ideas like this.
Jason, can I just ask you, I want to make sure I heard you right. You don't think there should be any qualification for someone to be the president of the United States, is that right?
I don't think there's any way to argue that's the problem. It was not a problem before.
But we lived in a world before that was simpler. Let me give you a classic example, and this is what I struggle with in my own thinking. Harry Truman, who was one of the presidents that I have a high degree of respect for. I didn't growing up, but the more I read about him and the more I studied him, that guy had a lot of courage. He did not have a college education. He was brilliant. He did not have a college education. If I were to propose a national amendment that we discuss in our country to change qualifications for president, one of them would be that they have a college degree. Another one would be that the presidency is not their first political office. So I don't want to make this about Trump specifically, but I think your point is that we shouldn't have qualifications to be the president of the United States, other than that you're born in the United States and you're 35 years old. And I just disagree with you, and we can agree to disagree.
Yeah, I think this is more an example of fixating on something that probably doesn't explain the decline, because it was true before the decline as well as after. And there are a lot of things that progressives want to do to make America better that are of that character, where it's like, well, and I can give you a long list. I won't. I'll just talk about those two because I think we've both seen them on here. Or the Electoral College is a third one, right? I mean, if America is in decline because of the Electoral College, that decline probably started a long, long time ago, right? And the same thing, qualifications for office, lack of controls of hate speech. I mean, the U.S. hasn't had these things ever. So if these are the cause of the problem, I mean, it doesn't make sense. It's like, well, I mean, lack of qualification for the presidential office, that's like 200 years old. It took 200 years before the declines today. I don't think that's what it is. So it's not targeted. And if it's not targeted, then it's like just, I don't know, just treating the policy like a laboratory or something,
We'll agree to disagree on that one. Thank you. Oh, and Anson, just before I close my mic, I don't ever want to argue with you about whether we're in decline. I think Scott and I would agree with you. I think the other day in the room, nobody disagreed with you. So we don't have to establish that point.
like to get in the queue.
Yeah, go ahead, Double.
I mean, I think a big issue facing not only the United States but also many Western or actually just developed societies, with the one exception of Israel, is below replacement fertility rates. How can this be addressed in the 21st century? I think we should be looking to men like Elon Musk. He is quite a fertile man, and if we actually dig in, a lot of it's not public or not well advertised. Some of the strategies and technologies he's employed to himself have a fairly high fertility rate, actually extremely high fertility rate. He's well into the double digits, he already into the triple digits, and we can expect certainly within 10 years that he'll be into the quadruple digits. He will be the most reproductive man in history, exceeding Genghis Khan. And so I think we should sit with that. People are laughing, but we should sit with that and we should think about what is he doing correctly that the rest of us are not even thinking about. At the moment, he's unable to be public about it because it would compromise too many of his business interests and political interests. But we should all be thinking about what strategies we can employ in our personal lives, or what strategies that the larger society should be perhaps encouraging and subsidizing. I'll leave it there.
So let me take this one. Wait. Go ahead. Okay. Double, I'm reading the book right now. These strange new thing words. It's how AI learned to talk about
System for family, everyone's more than oh my gosh, what about there's somebody in Detroit, you guys are hanging on. It's like, drugs are so bad, oh my god, it's another drug industry, But it was actually like the same, thing. But it's just it's just viewed differently. And it's viewed as there's a and your family gets, poor things and see what the addiction to actually. People, I never thought, like Jim, you were saying at the beginning, we were afraid. I never
decline the social fabric of the world. That's kind of
Well, yes, and I don't think you properly looked at what you do with that.
I'm just going to the book and I find pretty good authors, so maybe I'm wrong. But world population's gone up at a hell of a rate.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
So it sounds like it's going to be a boring group that you would instances. I don't like just recycle stop it. You can't come up with
I agree that, so in terms of genetic drift and genetic shift, this notion of the progeny of someone who, arguably has some psychopathic traits.
And then you call me all kinds of really racist stuff. That was the C-suites or psychopaths. We are now we are focused on each other tonight.
Raising dozens of children or creating, quite frankly, a little bit of a lost sport because this is the last thing we want. It's like we want to outbreed the Trumps and the Musks, right? These are people who bring with them DNA. It's like junk DNA. It's not junk DNA. We don't want that in our genome. We want to dilute that. So I just think it's remarkable that we would use Musk as a model. Of course, he wants to have as many progeny and offspring as possible. That goes with his personality. So I think we just need to rethink the notion of fertility and what it means to add his chromosomal DNA to the gene.
Double your strategy is really good. First of all, you chose an unsynthetic example. There are much better
Dumbass motherfuckers kick me outside of a court. I don't know the correct answer for this stuff here. It's sad, but unfortunately, let's see, smash, get your questions. So you mentioned something else here. It's at the area where they have that like drug like epidemic over there with people zombies. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm talking about it's like a movie. When you ride through it, if you ever come to Philadelphia, ride through it, you're not gonna believe it. It's like really crazy. I see videos of that, and that's the movies over there.
It's so random that it's just in Philadelphia. Like, why Philadelphia?
That's what I always say. I always say that the mayor trying to clean it up.
Hey fam, you gotta watch your mouth.
I'll be right back real quick and in a hurry.
Hey fam, you gotta watch your mouth.
I'll be right back real quick and in a hurry. It's gonna be removed.
What the fuck? You're in that cockroach's spaces? This isn't a place for fence sitters. You need to stand on your screen.
You need to kick me out.
Didn't I tell you Ed would be back the minute Zeno came back? Who's Ed, Zeno?
He was over there too. Well, he cool. Let him stay. He ain't saying nothing. He did nothing.
Yeah, he's all right. I was just wondering.
Look. We gotta slaughter the tribe. We gotta leave one alive to go back and tell them what we did. That's where it is.
You know what's funny is that there's people in here that would be in his audience, but I'm taking his audience and I'm taking that mental midgets, people that would be in this room that would be.
They trying to make, but let's face the fact. All our drugs,
Yeah, but I don't want to talk about the war on drugs. I want to talk about a baby. He looks like a fucking crack baby, and he has crack baby veneers. And he cons his way into it, unfortunately. And then he threatens it. And sometimes, I don't know. I mean, it's in the news. What can we do?
There's some fucking white liberal nerds in there. Then right on up, I say, I raise my hand. What's up? Fuck you, man. No, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you. Like, I can already read that weasel is such a fucking coward.
Yeah, okay, Motoster.
He's not Mr. Tough Guy. But it'd be funny
Are
because
you
it'd be an
projecting?
example.
Wasting your
It's
time
like he's
reading
somebody,
that
and I
check?
think it's so
Maybe
transparent.
you're Dr. Adams or Matt.
Yeah, just fuck with him.
Maybe you're a
See, I don't
loser.
know this act
You
like
got
they
John
talk.
too.
I'm not somebody who has like. Of course, a lot of the brothers on this app would probably say, "I've got killers in the streets." But I'm sorry, like. No, not you. I'm saying they exist though. Like you get some.
I'm not going to deny that they exist. Yeah, well, I got a question for you though. Okay, let's get out. Black people still white people. Get a word. Why do I always hear? Why do I always hear? This is what frustrates me. Y'all gonna be so powerful, so much economy. Everything wrong with y'all is because the tree. Y'all ain't doing shit about it. Why don't y'all do something about these? You should just shoot straight.
They're such sneaky, or they such sneaky people. Right? Yeah, I mean, we have to do something about it. They're masters at debating and lots of stuff. And so, they're a formidable enemy. Very, very quick-witted. That's just something you have to deal with. I can't answer either question because I would lose the clubhouse account.
Are you part of the John Kitover direction syndrome cheerleading squad?
This
is about a moron.
These retarded conversations, and I feel like the super pro-black people are always in them. It's so fucking weird. Like again, he's in New York weird and whatnot.
No, he's a
black person kiss ass.
He's a nigger. He's a wannabe.
That is
He's a wannabe Italian. No, he's been lying this whole time, saying he was an Italian. He has zero Italian relatives. He's 100% Holocaust. It looks like probably part 100%.
The most MAGA person in Clubhouse turns out to be Monica.
100%.
Monica is the biggest fucking
I
MAGA
understand it was like
on
he's
this
a
app.
fuck up with a criminal record.
They're good at and they're good at and her kind of falling out. So it's like, what was
Part of the way he could spin
even
it,
if
try to
you
make himself
unify
look cool, is like,
president,
yo, I'm one of
you
these
still have a personal MAGA.
kiddies from,
You yourself are
some shit, you know, and then, you know, he can act like a fucking tough guy, like, you know, he grew up in those streets, but he didn't, and he's just a big faggot. Okay, and why would you want to learn as one of those fat guineas? I mean, and those guys are, I make fun of those posts, most white people. But, you know, you're such a low-life piece of shit that you think those faggot guineas are cool.
The fact that I record
Because, I mean, to be quite frank, I would choose being some pot-bellied, fat fucking guinea, rolling on top of my fucking head, fucking slob, eating pasta, doing whatever, watching, you know, sports on TV, and you know, whatever local establishment, and just being, you know, just a fat, greasy wop. I mean, I would rather be one of those people than be here any day of the week. At least they have a place to call home. At least they probably, you know, the difference also is even like, let's just say they were in the mafia. Now my grandfather, he said there's no guineas in my family. Now, both my grandmother and my grandfather on my dad's side grew up in the north end of Boston. It was primarily Italian. The French Canadians didn't have like a part of town in Boston. But you had the Irish in the south. Now, it was like, you know, you knew there were like, yes, there was obviously like they had their mafia bullshit, but it never really affected just everyday people.
My chats are going to be part of this
Being in Providence, Rhode Island, when my grandfather was a boss, like he was a gambler, he would have to like walk like with a box full of cash. I guess I guess he would either lose or win bets. But in Providence, he could walk down the street because this was illegal.
I'm trying to help you.
And like nobody fucked with them.
Sure you
like, ever.
It's
Probably, you know, it's obviously you're fucking with the monkey's business at that point. It's like you're gonna wish the cops got you and not, well, even then they'd fuck you up in jail, so you can't really get away from it. But the moral of the story is that, like, if you kind of, like, just not involved in their life, you don't really, you know, they weren't that, you know, you didn't really have to worry about them. No, I understand, they did like, extort legitimate business owners and that kind of shit. I don't try to make these fat lumps to be like saints or anything. But which you could. You see, somebody like Jake Bresca, being the sleazy piece of shit he is, he knows that if he would have done that to one of their fucking daughters or a girl in the fucking neighborhood even, those kiddies would have taken that skinny fucking Pollock. They would have beat him within an inch of his life even if they decided to spare him. That piece of shit. They look at him today, the fucking loser he is. He's a lowlife.
Good job on that. Is that how you spend your
Saturday night? Like, how could, if you were to, and this is just gangs in general, like even with the way outlaw motorcycle clubs are generally going to be something I would say probably the most prominent. Right? You have to be a the fuck do you call it, prospect for like, I don't know, a year or two. And they're gonna test you, they're gonna test your character. A fucking space bag like him, he can't do that. I mean, he'll never pass muster for any group, you know, that, especially one where you have to really rely on them not only fuck you over, but snitch or steal from you. Or set you up. And, like, this guy's a weasel. Nobody wants to be around people like him.
again. And
You know what? I don't like you now for bringing that shit up.
No, KK is good. KK is good. Stop.
I love your loyalty, Cino. I love that. That's right. You protect Vaughn. I'm just saying, it was worse than what people had told me.
What happened? What did he say?
Well, I'm not going to play the clip because it's about Mon unless Mon says it's okay, but it's really...
No, what do you think you was talking to KK like that, though?
Just send me the clip.
Yeah, send it to Pepe, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, bro. Stop talking to me, bro. I don't know who you think you are, bro.
Cino, guys, you guys are cool. Stop.
Everyone calm down. Cino, you're being very protective of Mon. Ryan is being very protective of me. We all together, we're fine and everything's great. I'll send it to you, Pepe, but he called Mon a self-hating black woman in one sense, and that she was irrelevant and whatnot. Yeah, he did. I'm gonna I don't wanna I'll just send it to you, Pepe.
Okay.
But I just wanted to say, Mon, I'm so sorry.
Anybody in chat, get me back in that room. If y'all can get me back in that room, I'm gonna go fuck him up.
I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, this big mouth, he's just such a dumbass. He likes to say, Pepe, when you have this conversation, I swear to God, in real life, you never say the kind of things you say. You never say the kind of things. Well, I don't go up to black people like, oh, hey, black people, I know you're at church. Yeah. That's cool and all. Yes, amen. Lord Jesus. Hey guys, do you want to talk about black crime? Amazing, right? Yeah, let's talk about it. Or go to their chicken and waffles restaurant or whatever the fuck they like to go. And be like, hey, I know, oh, amazing, great drink, I love it. Hey, do you guys want to have a question? Or have a debate? They're gonna be like, leave me alone, fuck you. But then people come online to have like the controversial conversations, and that's, in reality, that's where, like, even you black people, diaspora war stuff that like I think happens online way more than it does in person. Like, do you guys stop other black people and ask them, like...
No, they don't.
Of course they don't. And do you think, like, we like white people say, like, oh, hey, are you liberal? Are you? Yeah, like, no, we don't really do that.
They don't think that's true.
No, they don't. Why would you think that shit, man? You sound dumb as hell. Why? Why would you think...
But yeah, those white people, they will, like, go and, like... I used to... Okay, like, 2020, I'd wear, like, it's okay to be white shirt when I go to the store. And then I'd have, like, a Trump hat on, like, Make America Great Again. And I'm telling you, like, I was boxing up to that point, and I'm at the fucking store. I'm like, I wish a motherfucker would. Just, like, go ahead, test me, bitch. Fucking test me. Go ahead. And then... oh, you're bigger than me? Amazing. That means you're like, going to be an easy victim. Actually, don't take the victim part out. I worded that wrong. I wasn't carrying a gun or anything like that. But the thing is, though, is it's like...
Yeah, man, you got to be careful, because you might be in one of these fucking liberal states.
No, I'm in a red state. Oh, I'm in a red state. So, I mean... If you're like a bigger guy and thought you were going to beat at that time, I was still like, had it in me, where it's like, oh, okay, go ahead, swing on me, bro. Like, see how this fucking plays out. But, it's also like I was bored. Polarization on the media. I was just waiting for a motherfucker to do something. But the only thing that ever happened, not
out of Pepe. You know what? You right, Pepe. Out of Pepe. You know what? You right, Pepe. Right.
Obviously.
Where you going to see no Chicago?
Yeah, I'm in Chicago.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm on the south side. What you trying to threaten me or something?
I'm just trying to see where you're located. We can link up.
You hear that shit?
You gonna do something to me?
No, we can politic though. If you want something done, you my nigga, we can politic though.
Ain't nobody gonna do nothing, man. And if you do, brother, guess what? I'm gonna call the police. You gonna voice your way loud about some shit I say on this?
We're gonna meet up. You guys are gonna slap sacks together, and then everything will be all.
Hell no, he from the rag. He from the rag. I just wanna pop.
Okay, there's no, guys, there's not going to be black on black violence in here. Okay, look, guys, I've been making concerted effort not to have black on black violence or white on black violence. This is white on white. We are going to war with the predator, a retard, a narcissist, a con artist, a faker.
Wait, brother.
That's what we're doing. And he's white.
Brother, why you want to do something to me, brother? What did I say that you're like?
No, brother, we good, man. I'm just trying to figure out. I ain't never seen you in a room before, nothing like that. So you feel me? I'm just trying to figure out what he waits for.
Is he getting arrested?
You know everybody see no?
He's newer. Mike's newer here. Like he came in. He started coming in here like way after because we haven't seen you in months. He's not. That's all. He's a nice guy, just like we like you, He's a nice guy so far.
Oh,
so.
Okay. Well, brother.
Man, we both so Pepe, brother. We cool. I just ain't like how you came back in. You feel me?
No, I love Mon. I love Pepe. I love they my peoples. But yeah, don't threaten me, brother. Just because I'm nice smoking.
Yeah, you guys are cool. You guys are cool. Don't even worry about it.
Don't look.
This conversation is too personal, but it's not.
No, we good, nigga. He from the rap. I know how the rap get down. You know how I get down. Shit, we from the same city. Yeah, we don't gotta say.
Take it to somewhere else.
Yeah, you guys are cool.
But look, brother. Let these white people beef. I've been enjoying Pepe beefing with another white man. I've been back here.
Yeah, get out of the way. Let the whites.
Yeah, it's us whites. The blacks are welcome. And you can join us in our fight against this disgusting Peckerwood JB.
Fuck JB, man.
Yeah, fuck JB on site anytime. Fuck that old. There's so many things I wish would happen to him, which I got an account clip for saying them, so I'm not going to say them. But he's just imagine what one of those women had to go through. They're terrified. They're being held hostage. And these gross, disgusting men, imagine like 60 of them over the course of 2 days.
He's not doing
Hold on, BB, sure. But 60 of them, so that I guess like 30 a day. I mean, goddamn, that is like, if you're up for 15 hours, it's like 2 an hour. I mean, I'm not a woman, but I don't even know like how your vagina deals with that. But they're terrified. They're saying like, you do anything, like I'm gonna tell everybody you're a fucking whore and that you're a prostitute, and he's doing all that shit. I mean, just imagine. And you can look, and this is after he was already on probation for stealing $200,000 from somebody else. But just imagine how terrifying it was for these women. And then that same cocksucker told you to suck his dick, allegedly. What? He did a play deal, so
I don't even think that's it's he's not convicted of it, but it doesn't appear to be a disputed fact of the case. It's posted in the news, and if the news were misrepresenting that, he could sue them for that. Just because he's not convicted doesn't mean it's an allegation anymore.
They can't sue him if it's in the police report. So, if a newspaper repeats what's in a police report, they can't be sued. They're just reporting facts at that point. So, no, they can go with it. But when it comes to what he did to these women, like, and this is where I think a lot of people, they kind of overlook it, and they like to say like, oh, well, the past is the past. But I want you to ask yourself, was there ever any point as an American, I get it, there's some things that could go on in a very poor third world country where gangs rule, like El Salvador, 8 years ago. But I'm talking about in America. Is there anything that would make you go out of your way and do that to women? I do not think. Yeah, but even if you didn't, just like make them.
He didn't go.
Well, hold on a second, but like coerce. Sure, but coerce them. Basically say you're gonna sit in this fucking hotel room. My Johns are gonna come through. They're gonna screw you, and you're not gonna. You're not gonna say a fucking thing, or I'll ruin your life. What would drive somebody to do that? Normal people don't go there.
Keep in mind that the anal rape is a child.
Well, yeah, most of us don't buy that. We think he's just suing them for money, to be honest.
So it looks like he got it because that house is in his name.
No, he doesn't have a house. He's renting. It was like $1,600 a month. I think it went up to just over $2,000.
In that neighborhood, no fucking way.
In Brooklyn, yeah. Well, Brooklyn's very expensive.
Okay, enough, Pepe.
No, you didn't delete it, but I filmed it and I put it as a libel slander.
No, nothing. In other words, he was acting like he owned a house. Like he's a renter.
If you can't be views,
We know that for a fact.
So
This guy pointed that out.
this is the Pepe show.
Yeah, no, and that's not the reason why I bring this up. It's because as he likes that ego, bitch, you don't have a fat wallet, obviously. When you say fat wallet, that means like, in my experience, meaning a fat, you're not somebody who can own a home. It means having a fat is bigger than most. But he's literally somebody living off of government assistance.
And I looked for
In a place that he does not own, and where the rent is a lot cheaper than other areas. He's like legitimately. His wallet is thin. And here's the thing, I don't have a lot of money, and the thing is, all of you guys say, oh, you're so shit, you're having controversial conversations. None of you can say that I tried to beat anybody's fucking guru. I did not say I have the fucking answers for anything in life. In fact, what is the purpose of life? I still don't fucking know. At this point in time, nobody can give me a satisfactory answer, but I don't like to have these metaphysical conversations in my fucking rooms. I don't fucking know. When it comes to getting rich, I don't know, I was never fucking rich. I'm not the guy to ask. When it comes to advice, I'm not a fucking lawyer. I'm sorry. When it comes to finance, fuck all about that. I can't help you there. I'm somebody who's controversial.
Listen, outside of Israel,
I don't come off as somebody with authority. But what I am good at is the things that I do debate. I'm relatively well researched on and discussed them enough times over. That's why I can hold my own debating these topics. I know when to bow out. I know when to not even fucking engage.
I love how America does
Now,
this.
a lot of these fucking retards on here, you hear all of these, like in 2000, 2020, how many of these people are fucking self-help gurus or life coaches or gay fucking shit? These are communists. These people, these people were, they're really predatory. I don't know. The one thing you guys can say about me is that you call me fine, that's it. That's a value judgment. I'm not going to say I can't disagree with you. You can say I said racist shit, amazing. You can say I'm controversial. Yep. I know that shit. In fact, I would say, so I'm sure that doesn't, I'm somebody who likes to, I obviously keep a barrier between my personal life and my real my online life on Twitter. Effectively means I can't make money off of it. So I'm not a grifter. Long story short,
Pop my head, it's baby. That's why I'm telling you what time you need to do. Y'all need to do something, man. Because I get it. You know what? You ain't afraid to say, yeah, the Jews kicking y'all in, just like the white man kicking the black man.
Kitover to the city.
And then you're like, I'm just immediately talking out of what? What's wrong?
What's American?
Right.
The pictures. Can you go slow? I'm trying to write these good technology stuff.
I don't want to miss it up because the thing is, though, is that if I was to change it to like such a controversial conversation, which I do have views that
or $10 or $200 or
a lot of people on the far right,
be the
the far right communists use that to have some of them that are like definitely not like what to say about Jews.
Yeah.
I would say I disagree with most of what they say, but not all of it.
But they sound like, look,
But when it comes to the kosher right, which I would call them, and some of them even venture into the far right, I think they're also, I'm not for the kosher right, which is, I won't even get into that label.
They sound just like the FBAs. The FBAs blame white man for everything. And your far right extremists, they blame the Jews for everything.
Well, yeah, there is this level of, so even like people like Richard Spencer, I think I talked to him a couple of months ago. I talked to him more frequently. There is something that a lot of the people, the alt-right doesn't exist anymore, but people on the far right, a lot of white people seem to be really in denial about this, but like white people are their own worst enemy. And white people absolutely have problems to fix first. Now, when it comes to, I think that, let's just look at Zionists, for example. Do I think that they put themselves in a position to like really
To win.
and to propagate, their nationalist, like, sure, but they're like, yeah, their nationalist agenda.
But do you
Absolutely.
Pepe, do you think the Jews control everything?
No.
I don't think
They controlled, they largely, I mean, they say it's an anti-Semitic trope, but they did control sectors, like absolutely.
Hollywood, Disneyland, and the music. Yes,
I would say Hollywood. I mean, you can make an argument for advertising. You can make an argument just for media in general.
Okay.
In the 1970s, like it was like over 70% of the media was owned or controlled by the Jews, and
So everything, the Jews own everything.
no. Depends on. I would say when it comes to influence, one of the precarious positions they put themselves in is that when it comes to positions of influence, they absolutely dominated. And I think a lot of that was they kind of, which is natural.
Give $10, right?
They wanted to influence Americans in a way that would make them feel the safest and to be pro-Israel, of course.
That know they small in numbers. They say, hey, we got to infiltrate this system and this culture.
Well, both parties, but I would say.
Just say the Americans.
But I would say this: there's a lot of. See, I don't dislike Jewish people, but when it comes to groups, like I look at groups and individuals differently. I don't think Jews, even as a whole, are like a threatening force. However, I do think there's I'm just going to be realistic with you. This is where I do judge based on their ethnicity. As soon as I see that you're Jewish, I am automatically going to see what angle you're going to have. Well, no, I mean, but you have to. Just like if you're a Mormon. If you're a Mormon, I absolutely have to do the same thing. But I know what the Mormon stances are. Now, if I get a quote-unquote progressive Mormon, I'm going to say, what is his angle? Because and I was thinking like, no, fuck off. No, I mean, like, I'm not buying that shit.
I'm not going to. Like the rap, no one's going to back rap.
I'm not saying the guy's bad. Wouldn't say they're in control. The thing is, though, is that even I forget who is this stupid bitch that got hired by. So basically, what is it? TikTok. What ended up getting that? They've been trying to. TikTok was sure. Yes, but if you look at TikTok, they were. For years, people were saying how like this is like looks like it could be used for like infiltration in the United States when it comes to data collection and even influencing our population. It was China as a hostile country, at least as a nation. Okay, years they're talking about this, but Mitt Romney, others, and by the way, that legislation that was passed by both houses was actually written by a group of Jews, and they were prominent Jews. Yeah, that got TikTok banned, and they ended up. The reason why is because they could not control the narrative on TikTok. Now, the thing you have to understand is that Palestinian side that you see, they are heavily. The amount of foreign propaganda that goes into it is fucking insane. I mean, you can't believe anything that comes out of the pro-Palestine side. Like, they are the biggest fucking liars. And they're like, well, why don't you believe me? Why don't you believe the story? Because you guys are, you cry wolf. And if I find it false 8 out of 10 times, why the fuck am I going to believe this one might be one of the true ones?
They said the babies were being killed. And they found out the babies weren't being killed. Like, they hurt my feelings.
Well, there were babies killed.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Look, so I'll tell you this. There's footage that's available to the public that show dead babies. Now, what you didn't get to see, hold on a second. What you didn't get to see, and I do know one person that actually saw the footage, who's in Canada. Basically, certain government officials, different media organizations, they could view much more graphic, disgusting version that nobody wanted it to be released to the public because of just how graphic, and it is absolutely horrifying, from what I've heard.
So wait a minute.
But you see you literally see the half dead people still alive, the children screaming and crying, and even John Spencer, who he was somebody who has a lot of experience in warfare. He's considered an expert in urban warfare. He was saying how what was very odd about it is that you saw these children screaming and crying that were very injured. Their relatives were dead, and they were just like smiling, laughing, going on business as usual, which he found very odd. You have to understand, he's a person who saw this in real life. He's a person who's gauging the behavior based on like what he's seen with the professional military.
I'm saying, Pepe, you're making my point. I'm saying Gaza should be going through what they're going through. I'm saying Israel is going too far.
That may be the case. But we don't know the real numbers when it comes to Gaza.
We define it where that so-called baby or babies that have been killed, decapitated babies and one in the oven. Yet we haven't seen a single picture of any of those decapitated babies and the baby that was.
They don't release that shit to the public.
Hold on, let me finish. Then the baby that allegedly was put into the oven, and they also turned the oven on, right? So they burned the baby. It turned out to be a puppy. There was an AI picture. It turned out to be a small dog sitting in its basket. Turned out to be an AI picture.
All right, I don't know.
This is 100%.
I have to look at it. I have to look at it to verify that it's a quote unquote 100% facts. And I'm just like, this is why I didn't want to go down this road. Like, I know normally I like having these conversations more
respectfully, we're almost 23 months in since October the 7th, and you still have to look into something that sort of everybody that has done like 59 seconds of research knows there were no decapitated babies, there was no baby in the oven. But then you're screaming from the top of your lungs like, yeah, they killed babies.
They did. There was definitely a baby they killed. That one was available to the public.
Sir, I've seen it. Myself.
Gino,
I've seen it.
Gino, 1 second. How many babies or minors, then I should say, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let me ask you the question. How many children, minors, babies included, have been killed since the 14th of May, 1948, all the way to 6th of October, 2023?
No idea.
Okay,
Tens of
one
thousands.
baby, okay, one baby is too much, sir. How about in America, sir? In America, we don't have to do that shit. Okay?
I agree, but guys, I don't want to talk about like Jews and Israel and like whatever shit. Like I understand why so many people consider Zionists. They believe Israel should exist. They have the right to defend themselves. Like I definitely think that when it comes to human rights abuses or human rights in general, they are, and here's the weird thing is people will say it's anti-Semitic to bitch about Israel. No, it's not. I'm sorry. But when we have wars in America, you have anti-war protesters everywhere. They call our, whoever the president is at the time, a horrible person. They're committing war crimes. They're yada yada yada. No, it's not anti-Semitic. It's par for the course. You guys, if anything, Jews, especially when it comes to these leftist anti-war people, they look at Jews as a bunch of fucking white people, and they're holding your feet to the fire, just like they hold us white Gentiles' feet to the fucking fire in our Western empires. You guys are no fucking different. They don't believe that. They don't buy any of your rhetoric. And I do think a lot of the pro-Zionist rhetoric is absolute garbage. And I've like pushed back against it. And people at first are like, "Oh my God, are you an anti-Semite?" No. Like I don't believe in the shit that was being said under George Bush. We're spreading freedom and democracy. And fuck off. He was a piece of shit. What? I mean, was that anti-American for me to go against what Bush said? Even if you look at the veterans of the global war on terror, it's incredibly unpopular. Like, so much of it was unnecessary. Go into Afghanistan, take out the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, kill or capture, Osama bin Laden. Iraq, there's no reason for us to go in there. That's that. I mean, that's it. Trillions of dollars saved. 100 million, whatever fucking people would have not lost their lives. Or how many? It's not 100 million. How many million? Was it a million, I believe? I don't know why I went with 100 million. It was a million. A million people lost their lives in, I believe, in the war in Iraq. And of course, we have what the veterans have had to experience, and that have lost their lives. I'm not. And this is a lot of this is, just looking at what ended up happening at the global war on terror. You had a lot of these guys that were like special forces and stuff, and then they get out of the military. It's like, what do you do? I know Green Berets are different from Navy SEALs. They're not as much commandos. They train and, foreign people build alliances and all of that shit. And then you have, long story short, you have these people. They've been doing one thing for, over a decade. They come out and then like a lot of them become podcaster bros. And I would listen to some of them because like, I don't have experience, let alone in the military, but doing the shit you guys did, like, okay, what do we do in the military? And I would listen to them, but there's one common theme I've heard for the last several years is that they do, I would say after the people who called, you did have a huge bump in enlistment. It's my, at least if I recall correctly, I could be wrong. After 9/11, and do I think that like after seeing, I was 19, I woke up and watched it happen live. Do I think that people did that out of patriotism? Yes. And my dad, he was in the 173rd Airborne Division in Vietnam in 1965 and 66. When the war very first started, they were the first in the Army to go over there. And long story short, some of the reunions happened. So in the very beginning of the war, you have the civilians and you're dealing with 100
people lining up when there's no filing fee and it takes you 15 minutes. And now there's another Republican candidate.
And so he did a reunion maybe like 15 years ago in Australia, and then he did one in the Chenza building. And the reunion is where the 173rd is currently stationed now. And one of the guys my dad, has kind of spoken with several times and gotten to like a lot was Canadian. He said he won the Medal of Honor. Drawing a blank, he was an Italian. Yes, soldier. And so he, talked to him, but he's a guy that did enlist after 9/11. That was literally his motivation. He was just like a regular fucking middle American. What inspired him to do, to go to war? Like, that was what it was. And he was a frontline combat shooter. And what they experienced in Afghanistan, it was like, especially like when it came to the 173rd, they had a lot of different from let's say like the special forces people. They would be put like in an outpost where it would be for months at a time, not knowing when the next engagement would come. And then do their patrols, and then they have to face an ambush at any given time. They never knew when the ambush was coming. Nowadays, that's the point of the ambush. But it's just like out of nowhere you get attacked. Like it's like a way on game. It's on a way. I hate comparing it, but like when I was in high school, I did want to hang out with a bad crowd. I had been jumped several times, and it would happen in random places. I did the jumping, like weapons were involved. It fucked with me a lot. Everywhere I went, I had to look over my fucking shoulder. I had to be able to look at everything wherever I was at. Because that sense of like, anything can happen at any given place. You don't have control over that. So you can always put yourself in the best situation to deal with it if it does happen. Like, imagine you're like somebody who's dealing with that at like a much more lethal scale, level where you like literally your friends die. Obviously you get killed yourself or seriously injured. The stakes are so much higher, and I don't know. I think a lot of people just, I don't know what my point on that is, but these guys are obviously fucking patriotic. This is my whole fucking point. Who else would volunteer for that shit?
Okay, we're gonna change it up. These have no bumpers, so it goes a little faster. Sounds a little different.
But I think that the people who disagree with that. Saudis and Islamists, like Osama bin Laden, that were Saudis, and training in it. Where does HTS in Syria? Where does he come from? He doesn't come from Afghanistan. But he was training in North African country. And then they started training. Then they started. Well, Afghanistan was a lawless place, and so did they have to take out any the people that enabled it and provided safe harbor and all? Yeah, they obviously had to do that. Now, when it comes to even HTS, the leader of Syria, he's not Afghani. He's somebody who I believe was training in Libya.
How many times did they?
Well, hold on a second. In Libya, what ended up happening is that it was no longer safe to train in Syria, because in Syria, I mean, obviously Assad's forces would kill you even while you're training. It's so like, how do you train a group of people that are ready, that don't have to deal with being killed before they're trained? He goes to Afghanistan, trains there. Now, if you look at the coup, quote unquote coup, it's really a foreign invasion. In Syria, you have all of these Turkic people that come from all of the stands in Central Eurasia that were being trained. And I believe the Taliban said, we'll give you 10,000 trained fighters. They ended up coming into Syria, and they ended up fucking everything up, including Assad. This came out of Afghanistan. They obviously, to this day, there's no difference between HTS and Osama bin Laden.
Or the one that was in charge of 9/11, they claimed that there was like a confession tape of him, right? But he never said anything like
1996. No, it was like 1996, 1997. No, he was in his little cave, and he said he was. I don't think it's a fatwa, because I don't know that he was capable of issuing one, but he declared war against the United States, and the first reason he listed was our support for Israel in that interview.
That's also funny, because in August 2001, right, the month before the big month, right, 9/11, he was in Dubai getting a kidney transplant, where he was already listed on world's most wanted criminals in the world. Yet he was getting a medical procedure done in Dubai. So
I don't know about that.
I know.
But Dubai, yeah, but I mean, even like, didn't the Mossad end up having like it was the last few years, you had a team of Mossad agents that I believe they were in a hotel in Dubai, and they ended up executing or assassinating somebody, and they were able to flee beforehand. I mean, it was something, the surveillance cameras were there, them getting in and out of the elevators and walking to the room. I mean, is Dubai, are you telling me that Dubai does not protect terrorists? I mean, they definitely protect criminals. It's a very safe place to go to. And there's zero tolerance when it comes to how you behave on their soil, but it's also known as being a haven for international criminals.
Where are you getting that from?
Oh yeah, you just look. I'm literally just Google Dubai. International fugitives. Like, these are people. They absolutely they'll flee there.
Okay, isn't that?
But you have to have money as a fugitive. If you're a broke fugitive, you can't go there.
Well, that counts for all over the world, right? But isn't Israel a safe haven for convicted pedophiles? Because they don't deport you back to the U.S., right?
Well, they don't deport criminals generally back to the U.S. And like, if you were to look at one of the biggest, they had to try him in an Israeli court. I forget the name of this piece of shit. He was a teenager at the time, and he brutally.
You can't maintain TFR by having a tiny slice of women have 10 children or 25 children or something. And those women are part of the workforce, so they're going to have to work. And then the question is, what work can they do?
Why do they have to work? Why do they have to work?
Well, women have to work because it helps us to maintain competitiveness with other societies, right? Imagine you have two systems. Yes.
Why do we need to compete? I mean, why do we really need to compete with other societies?
Because of evolution.
So you think evolution is based on competition, basically?
Well, evolution is based on competition, yes.
You do? I will say. So is there some element of evolution that's not competition?
No.
Do you know?
We did put in the chat.
There's no element of evolution that's not about competition?
That doesn't, no. There's many elements of evolution. I mean, evolution is about variation with selection.
Okay.
So, it needs, but we don't need to talk about my idea first.
Well, let's try to put this on the table here, because throughout all this talk about culture and DNA and everything, I think the real issue is evolution. And I think the question is, of course competition is a part of evolution, but so is collaboration. And the question is, if both of those are categories, then it becomes a question of what fits in which category and at which time, which is the best adaptation. I would argue at this moment, we are much, and I'm an Al Gore trained climate reality activist, so I believe, in climate change and all that.
Oh, wow.
I believe it. I do. So just so you understand, what I'm about to say is more important than whether you agree with that or not. I believe there will be 1 billion people homeless on this planet in 25 years, right? I do. And yet the issue is not the climate change that's going to cause all that. It's our lack of ability to collaborate to deal with that. Because like you said, institutions, well, you didn't quite say this, but I think you were going there, are made by human beings like us. They're just all human organizations. The law is all a human organization. Religion's all a human organization. This little club somebody started over here, this rock band that turned out to be the Beatles, whatever it is, they become that because people own them. People are the actual power. People are the actual economy. People are everything. And they don't necessarily have to compete from country to country. They have a whole global village to operate from. This is the 21st century. I don't know where you guys are.
Well, there's a lot wrong with that.
Well, I'm not going to say that there is, but I'm in the 21st century, and there are certain timeless teachings.
CRT, BLM, LGBTQ. I thrill with rapture, I soar on wings of sudden joy. O Pan, appear to us. O Pan, roving over the sea, from the craggy ridge of snow-beaten Silene, King who makest dances for the gods. Repeat it after me, everybody. CRT, BLM, LGBTQ. Thrill with listen lust of light. Oh man, my man, come careering out of the night of Pan, yo Pan. Yo Pan, come over the sea from Sicily and from Arcady, roaming as Bacchus with fauns and pards and nymphs and satyrs for thy gods. On a milk-white ass, come over the sea, to me, come with Apollo in bridal dress, shepherdess and pythoness. Come without thy silken shod, and wash thy white thigh, beautiful God, in the moon of the woods and the marble mount, the dimpled dawn of the amber fount. Dip the purple of passionate prayer in the crimson shrine, the scarlet snare, the soul that startles in eyes of blue, to watch thy wantonness weaving through the tangled grove, the gnarled bole of the living tree that is spirit and soul, and body and brain. Come over the sea, Io Pan, devil or God, to me, my man, come with trumpets sounding shrill over the hill. Come with drums low muttering from the spring. Come with flute and come with pipe, am I not right? I who wait and writhe and wrestle with air that hath no boughs to nestle my body, weary of empty class, strong as a lion and sharp as an ass. Come, oh, come. I am numb with the lonely lust of devildom. Thrust the sword through the galling fetter. All devourer, all begetter, give me the sign of the open eye, the token erect of thorny thigh, and the word of madness and mystery. O Pan, O Pan, O Pan, O Pan, 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 Pan. I am a man. Do as thou wilt, as a great God can. O Pan, Yo Pan, Yo Pan, Yo Pan, Pan. I am awake in the grip of the snake. The eagle slashes with beak and claw. The gods withdraw. The great beasts come, O Pan. I am born to death on the horn of the unicorn. I am Pan, Eo Pan, Eo Pan, Pan. I am thy mate, I am thy man, goat of thy flock, I am gold, I am God, flesh to thy bone, flour to thy rod. With oaths of steel I race on the rocks through solstice stubborn to equinox. And I rave, and I rave, and I rip, and I rend, everlasting world without end. Mannequin, maiden, mannered man, in the might of Pan, O Pan, O Pan, 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 O Pan.
Attention, I don't know. That's what it's talking to me.
And they don't like being a senator.
No, I'm saying they want to continue to have the same access that they did when they were younger, because there's such an emphasis on youth.
Okay, listen, you guys listen, gay men and gay women. You guys don't read books, so this is the service I'm providing your brains tonight. Here we go. It's called Aha. There are 7 keys to the great gate, being 8 and 1 and 1 and 8. First, let the body of thee be still, bound by the sediments of will, corpse rigid, thus thou mayst abort the fidget babes that tease the thought. Next, let the breath rhythm be low, easy, regular, and slow, so that thy being be in tune with the great sea's pacific swoon. Third, let thy life be pure and calm, swayed softly as a windless palm. Fourth, let the will to live be bound to the one love of the profound. Fifth, let the thought divinely free from sense observe its entity. Watch every thought that springs, enhance hour after hour thy vigilance, intense and keen, turned inward, miss, no atom of analysis. Sixth, on one thought securely pinned, still every whisper of the wind. So like a flame straight and unstirred, burn up thy being in one word. Next, still that ecstasy prolong, thy meditation steep and strong, slaying even God, should he distract thy attention from the chosen act. Last, all these things in one overpowered time that the midnight blossom flowered. The oneness is, yet even in this, my son, thou shalt not do amiss if thou restrain the expression. Shoot thy glance to rapture's darkling root, discarding name, form, sight, and stress, even of this high consciousness. Pierce to the heart, I leave thee here. Thou art the master I revere. Thy radiance that rolls afar, O brothers of the clubhouse silver star.
And it's been pointed to all over the world. I've traveled in Brussels. I heard about it in Africa. They've heard about this medicine hat experiment. It's famous. And so there's not, the jury is not out on what human nature is. We know what human history is. And human nature, as we talked about with culture, is driven by conditions more than anything else. And if we can make the right conditions, which we might have to experiment with, to put the appropriate amount of buying power in people's hands, on the appropriate conditions, we might have more people being able to pay their bills, stimulate the economy, and the economy can absorb it because you're living in the richest country in the history.
It sounds awfully like, material conditions define people.
John is very good at recitation.
Experiments failed miserably.
Well, I don't think those people who ended up with full-time jobs in a home that they owned in Medicine, Alberta would actually agree with you, but I understand your.
Well, I mean, there's a whole country that kind of went down the drain that would not agree with you.
Which which country?
Soviet Union.
Yeah. So I don't think Soviet Union is an example of that. I think the Soviet Union is an example of the deepest totalitarian government that's ever existed on planet Earth. That's not quite the example of what we're talking about. It's not the kind of it's not the police state of the terms and conditions of what you're talking about of the social contract. It's a very different social contract and an entrepreneurial one as well. You were talking to somebody right here who intends to make it happen in the private space with no government or taxes. So that's nothing like communism.
Andre don't realize that real communism has never been tried. Of course, I mean, that's always the argument. Like they come up with a new variable that might be edited. No, this is exactly kind of
idealism is not communism. Idealism is not communism.
Wait, I mean, maybe what Daniel was talking about will happen, but if we don't assume it will happen, I mean, it's a lot to assume, then I think it's pretty reasonable that women still have to work. And then the question is, what kind of work can they do that allows them to still have children? That's what we were talking about earlier, not utopia.
Sure.
And that's a challenge that I'm still trying to get answers to, right? Yeah, that's right. It's just, like, as this part of the discussion.
But why not borrow from that,
Jason? I think I'm not sure. Maybe your headphones are malfunctioning. I was speaking. So, but one of the things I would like to point out that the problem with Soviet Union, the problem with proposition that the material conditions will define
human nature is that, that have been tried, and this is exactly what we're speaking about. This is exactly what the project of Soviet Union and actually Mao's China was trying to achieve, and they failed miserably.
Indeed. So, if we just accept for a moment that women have to work, but that the kind of work that women do today makes it harder for them to have children than any work they've done in the past.
So why not just offer them the allowance that if they want to have children and they don't want to have to work, they have that choice? What's wrong with that, Jason? Why is that not a solution?
Well, it makes some assumptions that I don't think will pan out. I think a more conservative assumption is that women have worked when they had children in the past. So work, in principle, is not an obstacle to them having children.
But during the baby boom, that was not the case, right? Most women didn't work.
I mean, for thousands of years.
Okay.
Yeah, thousands of years. Okay. Women have worked, and they have worked a lot. For as far back as you look, women have worked.
Sure.
Okay, tens of thousands of years
as
far back as we can go.
I totally agree.
So they have worked, and they've generally had to work. The periods of history where women didn't work were very brief. They were very partial. Okay, some women didn't work during the baby boom, but many did. And so I don't want to bank on that. What I want to bank on is that there are different strategies of work, and that different strategies of work can allow women to have children, although our present strategies don't. So then that brings us to the question of women's work. What is a work that is compatible with childbearing, or what can we do to make work compatible with childbearing?
Why is it only men that are asking this question?
Well, that is good for women to live in. We can't avoid that question. In fact, maybe we've avoided that question for too long. So I think
the question of what work women should have, the question of what work women should have,
of how we can make work more compatible with having children. I think men need to ask this question.
More work compatible with having children would be that women have paid leave. They have, they have all the care that they need taken care of, so that they can easily have children. If you want to have more children, you want to make it easier for women to have children.
So Daniel, I think that's avoiding the question. And I'll try to explain. Yes, because you're talking about them having children and taking care of their children outside of work.
No, not at all. Don't tell me what I'm saying. Let me clarify what I'm saying for myself, please. Let me say what I'm saying.
What I'm trying to get across is that in the ancestral period, women had children.
We're not in the ancestral period right now. No, but I know, but he was too, right?
Women had children without leave. Okay, without someone taking care of the children. Their work was compatible.
But we're here in 2025, Jason. 2025.
Technology that makes our work compatible.
Okay. Then why can't we get that? Okay, great. Then what if we can use technology? Why can't we use services too?
That's not changing the work so that it's compatible with women.
Well, what it isn't? If I provide, I'm sorry, I don't really follow what you mean.
I mean, the woman is not taking care of her own children if the service is doing it for her.
No, I didn't mean that. I talked about, first of all, having children, meaning the pregnancy, the health care, all of the services that go into the initial maternity, not like doing the mothering job for them. That would be misunderstanding what I'm conveying. I'm saying if you want to have more children, why not create the conditions for, first of all, giving birth to be healthier than they are, with a lot more services than they have right now? Why wouldn't you do that to begin with?
It's not really speaking to the concern that I have. After they have the children, they want to be able to take care of them because their work is not compatible with that.
I get that too. You knew both problems. But you said that you wanted to raise the fertility. You said you wanted to raise. You said you wanted to raise the fertility was what this was about, right?
But it's not the question that I'm focusing on.
Okay, so you're okay with the fertility, you're talking about what happens after the fertility.
There are reasons to object to what you're saying there, as being. I would say that it's probably not important, and there are empirical reasons to say that, but it's also doesn't really change the fact that with work as it's presently organized, women cannot take care of their own children and work at the same time. And that's why
how would
the
you do it?
reorganizational work. Yeah, it's a great question.
How
So
would you do it?
I think a great example of a man who sought out a responsible direction for this is a man who developed a routing table and a router that even small toddlers could use, is completely safe for children to be around. And I think, yeah, maybe this is where we gotta go. We gotta have more machine tools that have much better safety engineering, so that women can in fact do machining, textiles, all those kinds of things in the presence of children. I think that's definitely one direction. I think that's a really much safer manufacturing. And we can make all this stuff a lot safer than this. It's a brilliant design. Let me see if I can find it. But I was just amazed to see this device. And I think this is where we've got to go. Because if you think about it, Daniel, in the 1500s, if a woman was weaving or a woman was spinning, right? This is a machine she was working that would not have hurt her children. It was not going to make so much noise or whatever that the children couldn't hear. But if a woman is spinning or weaving today, her children can't be around for that. That machine would her children if they got close. Okay, Agent, any objections to sharing?
Yeah, if no one else wants to come up, then we can shut it down.
You don't get a break. You do not get a break. Now, we were talking about extradition treaties. Yeah, I won't extradite you, bitch. You're being held accountable. You can go to a new part of the app. They say, well, that happened a couple months ago. No, fuck you, buddy. No. Dragging you through the mud. There's no reset, Jay. There's no reset.
I thought we just moved on from that boring conversation.
Well, no, I'm moving on from the Israeli conversation. But everywhere you go, Jay, I'm the captain now. I'm going to steer your ship right into a fucking iceberg. And that's that. You can't control it. Look at my emoji. Look at that black face of determination. He took over your ship. You got carjacked, bitch. Or shipjacked. Exactly. I am your captain. I am your captain. I can't do a Somali accent because I don't know what the fuck it sounds like. But you're done. You're done. There's nowhere to hide. And by the way, no, KK, he can give you a satisfactory answer all he wants regarding what he said to you and your husband. I'm a change. No, I'm not. You got a lot of chances in life at that, right? I'm sure you were saying, like, to your probation officer in the early 2000s, you've changed. 20 years later, what has that gotten to anybody? In fact, you're still preying on people. You still preyed on people. You still are the same piece of shit. Your brain's wired not much differently than it was then. Now, was it? So I'm going to drag your sorry ass for good. For good. Go on any platform. Go on any platform. I have the clips. I have the receipts about your history. You could try to go beforehand and say, "Oh, guys, there's some people that amazing, but they'll get used to listening to your bullshit. You'll wear thin on their nerves, just like you have every one of us." That's it. You see, here's the thing: is that I've actually. Hold on a second. Hold on, Frank. Not only am I the captain of the narrative and of stealing people out of your gay house. Now I understand the room numbers are small now because everybody wanted to see me talk shit about you. And then I got into this debate regarding Jews and Israel and all of this stuff, which I don't find too fascinating. It's much more fascinating than talking about you. But people love hearing me talk shit about you. Now, everywhere you go, I'm going to spread your information. You can say, please stop sharing the information. Next level content creator. Sharing your information. It's going to happen. Just, you know what? There's some Vaseline. It'll help it go in a lot deeper and a lot less painful. You just have to deal with it, bro.
Why don't you just let him be?
No, there's no such thing. See, I gave him a chance. Here's the thing with bullies. You try to be reasonable with them once. After that, if they double down, you don't show mercy. Like, he'll use it against me, but I'll just put it like this: wink, wink. I was not the same as a juvenile. In certain settings, which you had to be as an adult, somebody touches your shit. We know what they're doing. They're testing the waters. Can I punk this bitch? What can I get away with him? How further can the violation go? You know what happens, Jay. Because you're the person who ended up getting your shit touched, and then you tried to fight back and still got your ass whooped because you're a pussy.
Did they play with his pothole in prison?
Probably. If I had to guess, probably.
Did anyone check?
I have no idea. I don't care to know. But I'm sure he's had a lot of, strong black hands that cross his throat and things that have happened to him that are traumatizing. It's not my issue. I don't really care to talk about it. But god damn it, you motherfuckers keep on doing this.
I mean, everybody's somehow traumatized, and it's like,
Oh yeah, so in other words, I gave you the chance to just back down. You went with the false narrative, and you wanted to be the hero. The hero.
How much more do you want to...
Shut the fuck up, you drunk! God. Okay, move to the audience. I did that. You don't have to blame any of the other mods. Now, you wanted to be that you created the problem that didn't exist. I was doxing Roger. I was releasing information, addresses, whatever. But I didn't do it. You wanted to go with the narrative. You wanted to have some of the new people that you love bombed to be your attack dogs. Amazing. I call you out and say, hey, dude, you don't have to, because it never happened. Just apologize and keep my name out of your mouth. Does that. We'll just go our separate ways. You double down. So guess what? The terms of negotiation are off the table. Now it's me as the captain. You don't get to dictate anything. That's that. I get to talk about everything embarrassing about you. Wherever you go, I get, basically, it's going to suck for you. I don't know. Why didn't you just keep my name out of your fucking mouth to begin with? You thought I was an easy target. It sucks that we do know that if we were neighbors, you would have never done this to me. You would have never done it to me. I'd go live on Instagram with my hand around your shoulders. I'd say, what do you have to say about me? And share it with Clubhouse. Your demeanor would be quite different. But you being the fucking bully that you are, it's off the table for good now. If you say sorry, I'm still gonna fuck with you. You can say whatever the fuck you want. It's not on your terms. You don't get to choose when this ends. That's what happens when you start a fucking war. And Ludwig is gonna be very mad when I say this, but Hamas, they don't get to start a war and say, oh, okay, stop. Right, you started a war. The fuck did you think was gonna happen? When you guys end up paragliding into a fucking music festival, and and I saw these young, beautiful women and men killed. You can say, oh, it was a good ship. No, these people were killed up close. There's no bullet holes in the fucking tents, like in the bar where they were serving drinks and that kind of shit. These people were fucking butchered up close by terrorists. When they went to the kibbutzes, they obviously paraglided. But when it comes to the hold on. But when it comes even the kibbutzes, I see these kitty faggots happy that they were killing these Jews, calling their families like, I killed you. Oh, mashallah. Oh, and they were killing like the Jewish peaceniks, the most hippie lefty Jews, and it's like seriously.
Let me, my friend, TV. Just one reflection, one thing, just one thing, not even a reflection. It's just after this.
I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Like, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. I like you, Frank, but I don't know what the fuck you're saying.
Just after, there was some Muslim woman dancing. It was so horrific.
It was horrific. I agree. It was horrific. Now look, if there was like a Mexican, think of this. Let's say a Mexican, the lowest of the low of the Mexican population, the cartels. These are obviously the most criminal, obviously, and it will invite some of the most psychopathic people into their organization. Now, let's just say that we have Nogales, Arizona. I've been to Nogi, as we call it, several times. Now, if some cartel was to drive into Arizona and just like shoot up Americans, and then they were to have, and most of the American side of Nogales is like of Mexican descent, but let's just say they had even a white girl or a black girl, doesn't matter, in the back of the truck. The last thing you would see Mexicans doing once you drove back across the border is just like, touching her dead body touching her dead mangled body. What you would see is like those meals. Oh, you know, they'd be like petrified. They'd be like, oh my God, that poor girl. The population would just be like, oh my God, like they'd be stunned, they'd be horrified. They would just think like, holy fucking shit, that is so horrible. But then I got to see a bunch of these you know, pieces of shit celebrate it, desecrate this young dead woman's body that's all mangled up. We have to face a reality. I don't mean this in a mean way, but when it comes to the Gazans, they have obviously been propagated to an extent that they are fucking animals.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the name Rachel Corrie? By any chance? Does that ring a bell to me?
Who's that?
Rachel Corrie was a peaceful protester in Israel. I believe she was I'm not sure which country she originated from, but
America.
She's American. What was that?
She's American. She was American. She was an American before the
American. So what they did was that the PDF, right, also known as the IDF, I like to call it the PDF, the Israeli Diver Force, right? They ran her over with a bulldozer, and to make it even worse, you can Google the pictures, right? They even mocked her death by making pancakes, with decorating the pancakes with resembles with the appearance of Rachel, right? So when you're doing these things, right, when you are literally slaughtering, including raping, by the way, we got that on video as well, prisoners, when you're prosecuting kids that have not even reached the age of 2 digits for throwing a rock in a military tank, mind you, because you probably killed their mom or their dad or a sibling or a family member, right? And there is no representative, there's no lawyer. If you bully a person or a group of people long enough, you're gonna get a point of getting punched in the face. That's what
Okay, I get.
Give me one second.
You could use that same
Okay, hold on. Let him finish.
You don't want him to join you.
Just let him finish.
Hold on. Land of Palestine, right? You're talking about the best secured border in the entire freaking world, right? There is not even a freaking mouse that can cross that border. If you are 300 feet away from that wall, and you take one step, all the detective sensors they have, all the whistles and bells and alarms ring, and they pay attention to what is that exactly. So if you believe that they can just casually, with paragliders, fly over a wall, right? And we're not talking about the speed of a jet fighter, because we all know like how fast paragliders go. Just watch the videos, right? And they wait 4 to 6 hours for them to respond. It aligns perfectly with 9/11 itself, right? You just wait many hours for things to escalate, and then you retaliate by killing a million innocent Iraqis invading Afghanistan, right? And you see sort of like the same pattern. Wait many hours, then you bomb the embassy in Iran, you bomb the Gazans, you bomb Syria, you bomb Lebanon. Like, what is this shit? These people, this, I won't say the people, but I will say this government is a freaking cancer to this world, man. These Zionist scumbags, they killed, which has been counted, which Bernie, whatever his last name is, right? He even brought the papers with the list of like 18,000 minors that got killed since October the 8th. And here you have these freaking morons on this app arguing whether it's a genocide or not. Right? This is how retarded these people are. Like what are you defending? You're killing kids, the babies, over, I believe, 2,300
babies that have not even reached the age of 1 got killed. Like, what exactly are you fighting? You got to come to the point of like coming to a realization of like, this is not even making sense. Like, it's pure Satanism, man. It's like evil at its finest. I have no other way to put it.
Okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. Now, the very real problem that when it comes to examining what's happening in Gaza is that as far as the numbers of people that have been killed, what percentage of them were children? What percentage of those quote-unquote children, children is anybody under 18? Excuse me, I have the hiccups. What percentage of them were non-combatants? Nobody has these numbers right now. When it comes to even the starvation and stuff, like I mean, and we've seen that like the ones that really hit hard for a lot of people. Where I remember thinking, why is this mother chubby but her son's emaciated? That is super weird. And of course, we realize these are pictures that are taken of like children with medical conditions. When it comes to starvation, is it possible that it is happening? Yes. I think you can get an honest answer out of Hamas? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. They've lied so much that we cannot believe them. That is their fucking fault. If they did not lie, we would look at them as trustworthy. But it's not that they just occasionally get caught in lies. It's that the majority of what they do is lie. Now, if I wanted to snipe at Israel, I would say when it comes to in the West Bank, the settlers, this is where you do get a lot of what I would consider like far-right extremists. Is it Tabay or Tabea? I forget the name. They absolutely will attack, and this is a predominantly Christian settlement. They will attack them. Even Mike Huckabee, who obviously loves Jews, he's a Zionist. He said, like, Israel, I don't want your condemnation. I want consequences. Just like you would want if in the United States we were to, like, for example, try to commit arson against a synagogue and spray paint anti-Semitic shit and torch cars, parked alongside the synagogue. That would be considered, that's something obviously the FBI would become involved in, and you'd face very sharp consequences. When it comes to how the extremist West Bank, I'm not going to say all of the West Bank settlers are extremists, but they obviously, that is where you're going to get the loons. I believe Ariel Sharon even would condemn these people so many times. And what he was sick of is that a lot of the people that were going into the settlements were not people who were serving in the IDF, but when it came to the more moderate Israelis, it was their sons and daughters who would have to quell any unrest that was happening, and occasionally they would get killed. And he had a lot of contempt for what was happening. Now, I do look. I think Israel has to have the same standard when it comes to the Christians that have been living in Israel, the current state, Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. Because I know Jews and Muslims love to refer to them as different things. I do think, like, when it comes to religious minorities, you want us to have zero tolerance against criminally targeting Jews. You do the exact same fucking thing for minorities, which I think is very fair. I'm just being honest. The Christian population of that region of the world is absolutely being decimated. And it's largely through they're migrating out of that area. And to me, it doesn't sit well.
Would you say like that they have bombed Gaza or not? Is that like, you know, for whatever is left?
Oh, yeah, okay, but you know, when you ask questions like that, okay, you booby trap buildings.
No, hold on. Let's not talk about like booby trapping, right? Because now we're gonna make it sound as if like kids were running all over the place and they know where all the booby traps were at. And even the 6-year-old knows what a booby trap is, right? Would you say what they did to Gaza? Would you say like this is enough, or would you say like continue, proceed?
Oh yeah. So, you're asking me as somebody, if I was an Israeli.
No, I'm asking you as the person you are. Whether you're
Yes. So I'm gonna look at them as it, but I have to do it as if I was one of them in order to say what is pragmatic for them. If you're gonna have buildings that are booby trapped, just level them. That's what you have to do.
Even
because at the end of the day, I don't want. If I was in charge, I don't want to write home to families. Why did I lose my son or daughter? Why am I continuing to do it? Because I was refused. Oh yeah, sure. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
Okay, what is a lot? And where's the source that a lot of those houses will be trapped? I want to see that source.
Yeah, I don't have a source right now.
Exactly my point, but
So in areas, I've seen like pretty much every Hamas video that they publish, you know, they're like little red triangle videos. And I don't see, in all the videos that you watch, you never see any shields or civilians. You don't see them operating populated areas. It's always like in areas that have been evacuated and already flattened. And when you say flattened, it's not really flattened. Israel bombs a building and it creates a lot of rubble, and it actually creates an advantage for Hamas. So when you talk about booby buildings, these are places where the IDF have already occupied. They're not booby trapping like a hospital where Palestinians are being treated in, or for whatever.
Well, the Palestinians aren't doing the booby trapping. Hamas does it. When you have, okay, I understand. No, I know. But when you have a degree, hold on, let me finish this. When you have somebody that cannot militarily, face the IDF, which obviously Hamas cannot, they have to use guerrilla warfare tactics where there's a lot of going in and out of, blending in and out of the civilian population. I mean, to me, I don't see how else they could do it. So
they exploit asymmetrical.
When you're looking at this, right, and you see them literally flatlining every hospital, every church, every.
They didn't do it to every church.
Hold on. There's no more. There's nothing left of Gaza. I'm just summarizing it for you. When you're saying the places were booby trapped, you're talking about all apartment complexes, all mosques, all churches, all refuge. Like, oh look, it's booby trap, right? As much as everybody pretty much has a smartphone now.
Okay, right? So here's
hold on. If any of the claims are true of like most of those buildings were booby trapped, right? Then you should show me at least a handful of videos that proves that those buildings were booby trapped.
Yeah, there's actually a bunch of videos that show that, and it's really funny.
Like, what are we talking about? Like,
I've seen at least a dozen.
Booby trapped.
And so they also obviously will set up ambushes. So you'll see Israeli soldiers. They're trying to do the humane thing and like fight a fucking war.
Raping prisoners, that's a humane thing.
You bring up like that video did not prove rape.
No,
well, either way, war is war, and you can't control every single person. All right? That is the point. You're trying to make it sound like that's 100% officially condoned at the highest level.
Why?
You're not holding
Okay, but here's the problem: is that when it comes, well, hold on.
It's not about the rape. Why is there?
But hold on a second. When it comes to the U.S. during a global. Okay, hold on. Let me say something.
when it comes to the U.S., war crimes were committed. These people did it. The reason we hear about it is because it made the news and they were court-martialed. We can think of Abu Ghraib, where these people were literally, where they're making the human pyramids. There's one.
And waterboarding them.
A lot of, well, I don't know about waterboarding, but
Waterboarding is like a given.
no. You're talking about enhanced interrogation. It's something different. We're talking about in the prison that was
enhanced interrogation.
Sure. Yes. So when it comes to
Abu,
will you let me fucking finish?
Excuse me.
Abu Ghraib, which is that was a prison that was taken over that Saddam Hussein put a lot of prisoners in, and it was seen as a detention facility. You had a West Virginia National Guard military police unit that was overseeing it. They were abusing the prisoners, letting them shit on themselves, making them do human pyramids, punching them and knocking them out, doing horrific shit. This came to light. They were all prosecuted. They were all arrested. Now, when it comes to waterboarding and enhanced interrogation, that is not. The National Guard is not in charge of those kinds of things. And that was taking place in places like Guantanamo Bay, where you have 3-letter agencies that are also involved. It is not a fucking. It's definitely not something that's was the average.
Here's the thing, Pepe. You seem to be agreeing with Israel. Almost said it. What Israel has been doing, right? Which is systematically killing Palestinians. They dropped over 130,000 pounds of bombs on Gaza.
What would you have done differently? Well, okay, let's say it was a Christian state. And here's where you all fuck up. Is what would you have done differently with Hamas? And they're talking like 0.02% of the population or some shit. As Christians, what would we have done?
And then I would have negotiated from there.
It was a Christian state. Well, the funny thing is, Pepe, you sort of like hit the nail on the head. Back in the day, the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews were living perfectly side by side.
That's not true.
That is very true.
Stop trying to pretend that the Muslims live perfectly.
Oh, wait, Taco Bell woke up again.
Come on. Stop
I gave you I respect you.
are lying. Everybody, other Muslims belong with
Taco Bell.
Here's the recorded history of it.
Well, hold on a second. But if we can look at Martel, we can look at Charlemagne, we can look at everything. The history between Muslims and European Christians. Our relationship has always been one of conquest and then expulsion. The Muslims would end up taking over. They'd take over, and the Christians would expel them violently.
Wait, when are you talking about? What era are you talking about?
I have any idea when this happened.
Especially in the 8th century on.
Pepe, let me help you out. It was actually the Muslims that were protecting the Jews from getting slaughtered by the Christians. So if there was anybody that was actually protecting the Jews, it was those that were called the Muslims. For free. There was no charge. There was no exchange. It was like, we gotta protect you guys.
Sure, but the Christians wished to push back and remain Christian and expel Muslims. Is that wrong?
The Muslims don't believe you.
Like with the Crusades.
Are you vaccinated?
No, what I'm asking you is that when it comes to the Iberian Peninsula, he got kicked out.
The Islam is far more Islam. At least when it started out, before later on it was corrupted. They actually made it a thing to protect the Christian and Jewish communities. As a matter of fact, the most Christians to ever be killed in the Arabian Peninsula was by a Jewish king.
So the compulsion, it only started after Islam was corrupted, you're saying?
The first,
It was, so now it's a corrupt religion.
No, to be fair, even if you look at the Iberian Peninsula,
You're arguing how you speak.
I know.
the caliphate was corrupted, not Islam.
The people that lived in Iberia at the time, modern day Spaniards and Portuguese, they treated the Jews worse than the Muslims did. Now, this is something, even on the far right, there's retards who will try to deny this. This is something that's, we kind of know is a fact. They subjugated both the Christians and the Jews, but at a lesser extent than the Christians subjugated the Jews. And so the Jews were pretty receptive to them, and it's it was a.
Okay, perhaps you gotta ask yourself the question: why did they get kicked more than 1,000 times out of 106 countries?
Haters.
Maybe you should look into that. Just a little, just tiny little side note.
It's actually 20 plus countries, 109 times.
It's 106 times over 1,000 countries. There's perhaps a reason for that. If a person, if an individual, Taco Bell, hold on a moment.
1,000 countries, but 100.
Taco Bell, I'm almost done.
How much did that do with
Taco Bell, I'm almost done. And ask the McDonald's manager to reset the password. We can barely hear you. If a person is getting kicked, they came like this bubblehead.
Goddamn Taco, let him fucking finish.
If a person gets kicked out of a club, not once, not twice, not 5 times, not 12 times, not 50, it's like if a person gets removed out of a whatever facility over 100 times, I'm not gonna think like, well, maybe it's the clubs that are just like, they just don't like him. He must have done something, bro. Like 106 times. 106 countries were like, no, you guys can go. 106? 6 times I would already question one another.
Okay, I agree that
how could you disagree?
Hold on a second. I do agree that Jesus Christ. I agree that there is where Jews have never done anything wrong throughout time. Where you look at every pop, whether it's Native American, Sub-Saharan Africans, North African, any group of people you can think of, we all have people that did egregious shit in history. I think Jews are the same way.
The other psychopaths, that when just European citizens, including the Dutch, right, the Dutch freedom fighters, they pretty much were guaranteed to get their heads blown off, right? Morocco, right, a country in North Africa, they sent approximately 50,000 of their own men. Those were military, but the ones from the Netherlands and Belgium included, they just signed up and they just went there, right, to fight the regime of this psychopath called Adolf Hitler, right? Were those people considered terrorists? Look at them, they're fighting Adolf Hitler. Has been slaughtering people
But Hitler had a conventional military, and
that's not
the Netherlands had a conventional military.
Hold on, the Netherlands was actually putting Jewish citizens of the Netherlands on trains to get them to the border, and from there on they were getting whacked. So the Netherlands was absolutely, the Dutch railroads, still existing, same company, Nederlandse Spoorwegen, means the Dutch railroads, right, were complicit in this. Did we say like, oh, look at those people, they're fighting Adolf Hitler. These are terrorists. They're killing Nazis. Like military men that belong to the regime of Adolf Hitler. They're killing them. Was like, oh, horrible. They're killing Nazis. No, everybody was like applauding, right? That's what you see all over the world, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in South America, in North America, right? People are all pro-Palestine because we've seen the footage. We see people getting raped. We see kids getting blown up, getting their limbs blown off.
Okay, but let me stop you there. Even when it comes, no, but you see, going to this monologue, like
it's a monologue. You have a monologue, wasn't me. I'm just summarizing actual facts.
Harsh, but the Germans were at the time, you know, you have to look at it this way. You can say he was trying to save Europeans, the Aryans, against, I don't know, Jewry, whatever.
So it's okay to kill that are not Aryans, right? So you can kill like
No. But what I'm saying is, these other white countries in Europe had to face like horrific losses. Their economies were. Now, believe it or not, you do get people that consider themselves quote national socialists that are intelligent. I mean, I believe his name is William Arthur Pierce. He's the one who wrote the Turner Diaries. He was, I believe, a physicist. Much more intelligent than I am. But, you know, he had these kooky ideas. But with that being said, even with the high IQ people that hate Jews, they don't deny that Germany was like hyper aggressive in trying to, you know, encroach upon their neighbor's territory and sovereignty. Like that's not. And I guess like that's where I kind of lose you when it comes to you trying to justify Nazi Germany.
When did I do that?
Well, you're sitting here and saying how like
I would never justify anybody killing anybody that's
but you're justifying, you know, their stance in terms of why they should fight the war.
That. The replays are on. All praise to God. The replays
I know.
I would never say something. Yeah, they are. And then you're gonna listen back, and then you're gonna feel silly again. I would never support anybody killing anybody that's innocent. Never. I don't care you're black, white, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. I would never do that. Let's get that, like, you know, I feel like almost like being a suspect of something I've never done.
But the Jews, the Germans absolutely killed people.
I never said they didn't, though. Who's denying that?
Okay, but I mean, you're standing up for them for whatever weird reason.
When did I stood up for Nazi Germany? What are you saying? Are you all there?
You said 109 countries, over 1,000 times. You know, you're doing this shit.
Yeah.
I did find they were kicked out of England. It's because the crown owed them money. But that's what cancer.
But I think we're missing this one point that I want to hear your reaction to. Did you consider the people that were fighting against the regime of Adolf Hitler, right? The freedom fighters, excuse me, that also came from North Africa, all the way from North freaking Africa, right? The Dutch freedom fighters, the people from Belgium, German citizens included, right? That all fight, this shit needs to stop. This is crazy. Would you consider those people that fought the regime of Adolf Hitler, would you consider them as terrorists?
No, in fact, I would say the walk, but you had contingents of, you know,
Muslim, Sikh, Hindu that were against, the colonization of India. And so naturally, whose side are they going to fight on? Obviously Hitler. And so out of all of the the countries that were against our allies, they were obviously had the best weapons and training, and that's where you could really, I guess, do the most to fight back. The Russians, or I should say the Soviets at that time, were absolute worthless pieces of shit.
Make it easier
Yeah,
for
they
you.
joined them.
Let me make it easy for you. Is the shepherd that's protecting his sheep from the wolf? Is the shepherd the aggressor, or is it the wolves? Are people being conditioned to believe that
It's the wolves, but the wolves at the same time.
So hold on.
But the wolves are doing what they're born. Hold on, but you asked, so I get to explain. Wolves are also doing what is natural to them. We encroach the territory.
That's not the point.
Build a fucking farm, and then they see a bunch of fucking sheep, and the wolves are like, "Oh, amazing! I'm gonna have dinner tonight."
That's not the point. Is the shepherd hunting wolves, or is he protecting his sheep from the wolves? That's the question.
The shepherd is obviously.
Okay, so was Hamas existing before the founding of Israel? The answer is no. Hamas came afterwards. So the shepherd came out of his house to protect his sheep after the wolf attacked his sheep. So he's reacting. He's not the instigator.
I wanted to get I was enjoying listening. I'm not going to chime in too much here, so I was enjoying listening. I want to get the conversation kind of back on track here. And I don't want to speak for Ludwig, but I think what he's drawing parallels to is Nazis and the IDF. So he's saying you wouldn't call the people that were attacking Nazis terrorists, so why are we calling Hamas terrorists? Because he's basically saying that the IDF are Nazis. I think that's what he's trying to draw parallels to.
Pretty much, just located in the Middle East.
I don't necessarily agree with, but I think that's what he's trying to say.
Put that in the right words.
Well, look, I do agree that if we let's just look at European Gentiles in Europe, and then of course if we look at, but if we look at, hold on a second, but if we look at Europeans, then even after the dissolution of Yugoslavia, you had whites. I would say, this horrible fucking person. The reality is that ethnic cleansing was like a goal of a lot of these groups, and it was an absolute horror show. But can I say like one's morally right? No. Like I'm somebody who would not, just because you're ethnically or racially different from me, would kill you. Like that's not who I am. But I don't know. This has existed even within and that's why I'm being hyper-specific when it comes to white ethnic groups. We absolutely do the same thing. Like we look at all the wars in Europe that have stemmed from just religious differences because you so happen to come from a different sect of Christianity.
These are warnings. There's a warrant from the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu, right? For war crimes. You know this, right?
I don't care about that.
Well, it's awesome.
Would you consider Israel on par or equivalent to with what the Nazis did? Do you consider what Israel's doing on par with the Nazis?
No.
See, I think it's where the disconnect is. See, Ludwig is starting from saying Israel are.
He's a propagandist. He'll never criticize Muslims.
Well, the Nazis were independent, so they didn't have to depend on other countries' approval to do their genocide. They were able to, depend on themselves. The difference with Israel is that if Israel did what they wanted to do, what their leaders have openly stated that they want to do, which is starve every man, woman, and child, they would lose the Kinetic War, and they would lose funding from the U.S. because it would be too much. So it's comparable, but obviously it's not the same. And also, Israel now exists in a post-World War II, post-United Nations, Geneva Convention world. So, of course, it's different.
But I have to ask you a question. Do I think, I know for a fact you have, like, right, Israelis who have extreme beliefs that are Hitler-esque. Amazing.
Extreme beliefs is in their religion? Or
In terms of ethnic cleansing.
No, hold on a second. No. Jesus Christ, you guys, this is so cringe.
That was my fault.
Okay, so like, if you white Gentile or Christian, Jesus Christ, I said my Lord's name in vain, very bad thing. But when it comes to white Gentiles, can they justify things that are demonic? Yes. Now, my opinion, far right Israelis that are Jewish, that are like very shitty people, of course. But at the end of the day, if you look at Christians from any place, even for the same denomination, like we have such varying views where we absolutely hate each other. And if one extreme side of the group was to like mistreat another, we would be getting yelled at by the other, half of our population. And so like Israel, it is an advanced country where these people fight with each other non-fucking stop. And even if you look on this app, for the experience with Jews on Clubhouse has been like there's a group of Jews that tend to be more right-leaning and then left-leaning, and when they come into each other's spaces, there's fireworks, somebody gets kicked out, they don't like each other. They are not, I would say they're not a fucking monolith, just like, white Gentiles are. Like, I trash other Gentiles for the majority of the time. And we're supposed to think like, okay, these people are on fucking code 100% of the time. They're not.
Okay. I feel like you never answered my question. Do you consider the people that fought the satanic regime of Adolf Hitler, do you consider those people as terrorists? It's a simple yes or no.
I will not consider the people that were rank and file in the German military on our side or the other side as being demonic or bad. They were fighting for their fucking country, and at that time, all of them were fucking drafted.
It was not about the country. It was about bringing down the regime of Adolf Hitler. It was not about the country.
But look, Vic, it's a loaded question, kind of, right? Because you said, would you consider the people that were fighting the satanic regime of Nazis terrorists? But Pepe doesn't consider Israel as a satanic regime like Nazis. So, of course, Pepe is not going to understand. Like, the question, there's a disconnect in the question itself, because your strong premise is that Israel are Nazis, or equivalent to Nazis. And Pepe saying Israel's not equivalent to Nazis.
Well, there are a lot of similarities, right? You're occupying the land, which Hitler
There's no fucking similarities. Like, this is Jesus Christ. What I don't get is you get people on the far right, which I was a part of for a long time. You know what's happened to the alt-right, what's happened to a lot of us that were on the far right, is that we have to listen to this bullshit from other people on the far right. Why am I a much gentler person than I am now? I was somebody that used to think, like, I can't wait until my beliefs become mainstream, which they are now on, like, Twitter and most fucking platforms. And after I've now listen to these people, I'm like, holy shit. We've actually, in a weird way, like, you know what? I almost prefer the censorship mafia that would exist in the past, because you have such sociopathic, retarded pieces of shit that buy into all of this crap. Like, okay, like, we've been getting along when it comes to, targeting JB. I'm somebody, I allowed myself as a fucking retard to get diverted, into talking about Israel, as you like to call Pisrael. And I, it's just like, Jesus Christ. Would I say they're an ally? Yes. As a citizen of the United States, who's not, some evangelical faggot, but, fake Christian, they're an ally. They're definitely not our best ally. And do we need to keep on giving them money? No, I don't really think so. Do I think there's a time where we might need to give them, money? Absolutely.
Why?
Well, if their existence, if their existence is on the line.
There is a whole compilation of Benjamin Netanyahu before he became the leader of Israel, where he's literally like from the late 90s, right, all the way to 2003. He's saying Saddam Hussein, Iran, I meant to say, Iran is weeks away from having.
It was Iraq. It was 2003.
No, it was Iran, what I'm referring to.
When was this?
Bro, there are whole compilation videos.
I think you're thinking about 2003 when you were there.
No, it's both. Literally from late 90s. He's literally saying Iran is weeks away from making nuclear warheads. And then, like, the next video, Iran can produce 10 nuclear warheads a year. That's 110 years from now. And so on, and so on, and so on. Right? Iran has not tricked nobody. Right? Nobody has attacked nobody.
No.
Hold on. Almost. They look at Israel. They bombed Lebanon. Right? And only the last 22 months, they bombed Lebanon. They bombed Iran. They bombed Syria. They just keep on bombing whoever they feel like bombing, right? They flatlined Gaza, claiming that they killed, I don't know how many members of Hamas, of Hezbollah, and Al-Qassam Brigade, and whatever other militia there's out there, right? We have not seen a list with people that were fighting, that were like the so-called Hamas, right? Where's the list with all the people that they've killed? Because they said 40,000 got killed, 20,000 of them were allegedly members of Hamas, right? So it's one-on-one. You're killing one bad guy and one civilian. That was in the first 4 to 6 months from the top, right? We're in for 22 months. 22 months. And I've seen numbers that are close to 400,000 that got killed. The numbers cannot still be 40,000 after 22 months.
Sure. Okay, but I would believe Hamas if Hamas was not known for lying a lot. Now,
what did they lie about?
Wait, so who's lying?
I mean, everything from when it comes to where's that fucking hospital where the bomb landed? Yeah. But I would say this. God damn it, I forget my fucking point. I had it all lined up. Jesus Christ.
The lying
Part of my lower sanity.
We can talk about that hospital strike later.
No, I'm trying to.
Because Israel did bomb the hospital.
You mean all 40 hospitals?
Yeah, but this one.
Go back to. Do you think there's a bunch of similarities between Israel and the Nazis? I'm just curious what your couple was.
The similarity. what they were doing.
Or advancing their nationalist ideology at the expense of, innocent people. Expansionism. What else? Similarly, they both have death camps. Like right now, Israel is setting up concentration camps over the ruins of Rafah, so that if they succeed in expelling everyone from the north, they're going to put everyone in these camps. So they both use camps. They both use killing civilians.
But even for example, and this is no knock to the Israelis, the Jews or the Muslims in the Middle East, but what I would consider,
and Christians.
It's just my opinion. What I would consider the most beautiful Middle Eastern people in the world, the Lebanese, majority Christian country, and
majority Muslim country, by the way.
It's 33% Christian, 30% Shiite, 30% Sunni. Or
sure,
it's 5%.
Sure, but it was a majority Christian country. You guys can't not deny that.
I think that's the perfect example. Is Libya.
Okay, but what happened? What happened after it was majority fucking Christian? You had a nice fucking place.
Yeah, it's still a nice place, by the way.
No, it's not. It's a fucking shithole.
No, it's not. No.
Okay, why would you say that? That debases your whole fucking argument, bro. I'm not even.
You're just making stuff up because.
I'm not making stuff up. Lebanon is literally
getting bombed by Israel. Christians and Muslims live perfectly in peace and harmony next to each other.
No, they don't. You've had sectarian violence for decades, and even amongst the Muslims, you have between the Shia and the Sunni. I mean, obviously, was Hezbollah had their I would say a very large standing in Lebanon. The Sunni Muslims absolutely fucking despised them. The Christians didn't like either. And neither of them liked the fucking Christians. But you see a country, that they had what you would call the Paris of the Middle East.
Oh, by the way, the other similarity is controlling the region, right? Just like Israel is doing. Just like bombing.
Okay, sure, but why should I give two flying fuck? This is what is so fucking annoying about you people. Okay, you have a majority Christian fucking population in Lebanon.
No, it's not.
Okay, no, hold on. You want to preserve the homeland for the fucking Christians and the Muslims that are in quote unquote Palestine, but when it comes to a state like fucking Lebanon, that is literally majority fucking Christian, it's all of a sudden that is brushed. No, the majority of them have been fucking Christian. Jesus Christ. Through the times of Jesus Christ. I mean, and then I have to sit here and listen to this goddamn bullshit, okay, about how...
What does that have to do with the killing of Palestinians?
Are you fucking serious?
Okay.
Hold on. No, I have to worry about displaced fucking Palestinians. Then I get, which, no knock to you all, the most beautiful Middle Eastern with a majority fucking Christian country, and you guys do not give two flying fucks that it's become a majority fucking Muslim. I take absolute offense to that, and you want me to say, oh, these evil quote-unquote kikes are taking over everywhere, and then what? What are the fucking Muslims doing? These fucking diaper heads are taking over Christian fucking countries. They've literally done it, and they treat everybody, including Christians, like absolute fucking shit. You want me to pretend like these Jews are our number one fucking enemy, that if it wasn't because of Jews, Muslims would be getting by just fine. There were not fucking Jews on the Indian subcontinent, where you have, we can look at all of the wars between the Buddhists, the Sikhs, the Muslims, the whatever. You guys absolutely wreak fucking havoc wherever you fucking go. And I have to sit here and pretend, in order to appease people like you, that somehow if it wasn't for Jews, Muslims would be getting along with Christians just right. No, they've never gotten along with Christians. That's why our history with Muslims has been one of expulsion or conquest and expulsion. We can look at everywhere, whether it is Sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, the Middle East, Asia, wherever the fuck you go. Muslims are an absolute parasitic force against the rest of the fucking world. I am so sick of having to fucking pretend like you guys are gonna be fine without the fucking Jews. Without the Jews, you guys still do the same fucking shit. But you guys are gonna blame the Jews for why you guys are parasitic, or I won't say parasitic, but terroristic, nasty, absolutely horrible pieces of fucking shit to have to live next to and, or live with. You guys, but, let's just blame everything on the fucking Jews.
Isn't there like a civil war?
This is so fucking stupid.
Isn't there like a little civil war in like every one of the countries going on right now?
The Muslims, Islam's the religion of peace.
I mean, they sit here and pretend like the Jews are the reason why Muslims are killing Jews in Nigeria is because of Jews. No, they don't have a fucking Jewish population. They're doing it because of their fucking religion. Why have we had, if I recall correctly, I repeated the quote of General Jack Pershing, where he said, like, his biggest regret was not putting American boots on the ground in Germany during World War I, because he felt like they would start some new shit during World War II. But he's also somebody who said during the campaign in the Philippines during World War I that rabies to a dog is Islam to the man. He saw this shit. Okay, who are the terrorists in the Philippines? It's the fucking Muslims. Where are the Filipino Jews? Oh, that's right, they don't.
And babies are terrorists as well.
Wow. There was some noise.
Thinking about the burning of Israel, which will result into the greatest and the biggest.
Okay, well, hold on a second. So here's the biggest problem. Now, when it comes to the nativist arguments that Zionists make, okay, regarding the Levant and Israel. Now we know for a fact that the average Palestinian is more tied to Levant. When it comes to the Christian Palestinians, much more so, or not much more, barely more so. I use the wrong word. When it comes to, do I think you have a quote unquote homeland after 2,000 years of absence? I'm somebody of French descent. Do I think that I should be able to say, like, France, you need to let me in? No, fucker, I have French DNA. No, it's not happening. They don't really give a fuck. Somewhat similar, and I'm quite removed, by centuries from them. But at the end of the day, it's just like, okay, they have a country they built that is successful. Nobody can deny that. Do I think that they absolutely have far right-wing, I guess you could say, ideologues that drive practices and policies there, which is, it's not fair to the at the end of the day, what is it? How are the Christians or the Muslims at fault for just being there? I would say they have, especially if they're born there, their ancestors have been there for generations. Nothing. They didn't do anything wrong. But I'm not going to pretend like there are not a bunch of radicals, on the opposite end of the spectrum that look at them as a bunch of, just despicable pieces of shit who do not belong there and play along with the game like, oh yeah, just treat them well, treat them very well. I completely, it's so insulting to my intelligence.
What do you think radicalized them?
Well, I would say Islam in general, just like kind of like what you see throughout the world. I think that if you were to ask me a different question, do I think that there were legitimate, resistance movements? Yes, absolutely. Do I think they invited? They're such a new country, Spanish. Yeah, that's par for the course. Like, I do not think that you're anti-Semitic for pushing it back. Original, terrorists, which they were technically terrorists. They were, pan-Arab. You had a lot of Christian leadership, in some of those groups. A lot of them were, I would say a good chunk of them were very far left ideologues. And no, I completely understand how that would happen. I don't think, I do think, with the foundation of the state as imperfect as it was, you're obviously going to get resistance leaders. And I'm not demonizing those people. But when it comes to Hamas, I'm sorry, dude. I'm just like, there's nothing you can say where I will defend it.
I mean, where do you think a Hamas member?
So the Palestinians should continue to get slaughtered and have nobody to defend them.
No, I didn't say that, but...
Okay, so then who's going to defend the Palestinians?
The Palestinians, you mean the Gazans?
Yeah, or those that are in the West.
Okay, but when it comes to the Gazans, if Hamas mass surrendered, I do not see the IDF just like summarily executing these people.
So anybody can just occupy your land, do whatever they want, and anybody that comes to rescue should get slaughtered, including those that live in that land.
Okay, so if I was to go into Mexico, let's just say Mexico was a superpower in comparison to the United States. And me and a couple thousand people who thought like me went in there. We just shot up Mexicans. We just raped Mexicans. We burned them in their cars. We just did like horrible shit. We shot old Mexican ladies and young little Ninas and Ninos in the face, because they're just these filthy Mexicans. There's nobody who would rationalize that. I mean, really, despite our political differences, nobody would rationalize that. But, it's just this really weird thing where I have to listen to people trying to justify doing something that here in predominantly Christian countries like Mexico, for example, versus the United States, we would never treat each other like that and find it like justifiable. It is fucking satanic.
Did Mexico do it to you first?
But even still, like, I do not think we, like, literally...
If Mexico made a move on Texas, I don't think people are going to be like, yeah, no, that's cool.
No, we would never... Ciudad Juarez, we would not, on either side of the border, you would not see like a dead, mangled, woman who's either early 20s to late teens, and then drive on either side of the border and be like, look, we caught this fucking Mexican, or we caught this fucking American. And people would be like desecrating the body. And I will say, like, religion is probably a large part of that, because that is just, like, morally you justify that.
Have you heard of the Israeli Telegram channel 72 Versions Uncensored? mangled bodies and headless babies and Palestinians that have been burnt to a crisp. And then they caption it, making it into memes. They're like, oh, it's barbecue time. That channel had over 200,000 subscribers.
Yeah, okay, look, there is so much, I've gone into it.
Morbid curiosity, and it's happening close by, so people are fucking looking at it.
But I would say that when it comes to how people are treated, do I think that Israelis and Jews, which is going to reflect on Jews overall, whether they like it or not, that is where people's mind is going to go. It's not necessarily where my mind is going to go, but it's definitely where most people's mind is going to go. When we get to see young people dancing, doing their stupid TikToks, mocking the starvation, how shitty the Gazans have it, we look at it as really bad. And it rubs me the wrong way, but I get it. During the Gulf War, or the second global war on terror, you had, obviously you had people, saying very controversial shit in support of something that a lot of people objected to. And the people that are going to, go be the most viral are going to be the people who are likely the most controversial. I don't agree with it. I do think that Israel, I would say, and they span the gamut. They're economically, when it comes to their socioeconomic status, but even to their economic beliefs, they'll span from fascist to communist, or even obviously more libertarian. When it comes to just being left versus right, they're a divided country. And I'm sure, and I talked to, and I'm just being upfront about this, the Jews I've largely been cool with or in contact with have been right-wing Jews. And we all, I would say for the most part, I've never really heard anybody stand up for them. But when it comes to the ADL, there's Jesus Christ, was their singing voices. A bitch Barbara Streisand, it's just you can't loom. But even if we're looking at compared, Chuck Schumer, who's a piece of shit, how is she different from Nancy Pelosi, who I would say is far more shrewd than he is. He is or she.
Yeah, but nobody's gonna go out of their way to call her some sort of Italian something because of her bullshit.
Well, I mean, she's a fucking cunning, daily bitch. There's no denying that.
That's the point of what I'm making. Nobody's gonna identify her this Catholic woman, this Italian woman who's doing some shit.
But if she was Jewish, just imagine Nancy Pelosi, the most powerful woman on the left in Congress, was a Jew. And she's making all of this money when it comes to insider trading. Oh, this fucking Jew. Oh wow, this conniving bitch, Nancy Pelosi. You evil kite. Oh my God, you're ruining our government. That's what they would do.
I agree.
But she's a god. She's like me. She's born a fucking Catholic. She's not Jewish, but she's every bit of much of a contestable, fucking cunt that a Jew like Chuck Schumer is. But no, we only want to blame the Jew. oh, she was taught that by the Jews. No, she wasn't. Like, people like to pretend, like, even if you were to read a book like Machiavelli, this is a bunch of fucking guineas doing their sleazeball, getting bullshit. The fuck does it have to do with Jews? But if imagine Machiavelli, imagine this book, Machiavelli, was about Jews. This is basically about manipulation and power and all of that stuff. Dude, can you imagine what anti-Semites would do? They'd be like, oh my God, that everything's making sense now. I figured out everything that's wrong with America. I figured out the problems of the universe. It's the Jews. These power games come from the Jews. That's what they would do. It's so fucking obnoxious. Like, okay, like I get to listen to these fucking retards. It's just like get rid of the Jew, you get rid of all the problems. Really? Before Jews, you guys had a lot of fucking problems. Like, we talk about how barbaric the Aztec were for doing their live human sacrifices, but let your fucking
do it in Mexico and South America, all over them.
Well, they're
worse than the fucking.
Well, no, I get what you're saying. Well, the Middle East, a lot of ISIS actually, a lot of people don't understand this when it came to the videos they would make. Their inspiration in terms of the violence came from cartels. And the cartels would only do it just to intimidate other cartels, whereas ISIS did it to basically terrorize whole populations. I don't know, it's just I've been, spent years in the far right, which I think the far right is like largely batshit crazy. Just like I think the progressives are. I'm a reactionary. I'm somebody who is just like, well, fuck these people. I would take a totally opposite stance. But, I even think conservatives suck, really. I absolutely do. I think, I don't want to say they suck. I just think they have very simple prescriptions for how society should run, which I don't think are like practical. But anyways, when it comes to the Jews, I can only hear this shit so much. And I'm somebody who never had a problem with Jews. Then I'd meet people that are like quote unquote national socialists, in other words, neo-Nazis. I'd have these debates. I watch like Europa, the last battle. It's like a 12-hour, like I would say 90% false propaganda video. And it took so long to watch it because it's just like I had to like verify everything that was being said. And it was so like, it was such bullshit. And so like imagine I go into a place like, whether it's on Discord or here or Twitter, and I have to listen to these people that are diehard like Nazis. And they say, what's Europa the next battle or the last battle? It's like amazing. I watched it, but it was like propaganda and mostly lies. And then, okay, so you retards are buying into this shit. Amazing. It's literally propaganda and lies. And I don't know. And I'm not like, once again, when it comes to like Jewish influence, or they're highly productive minority in the United States that punches way above their weight. So I think like you can absolutely look at like, hey, when we talk about things like Israel, are you guys going to be biased? Obviously. But it's just like if we were to talk about polygamy, the more is there a bias? Yeah, obviously. but people like to create these. I just like the far right in America. I remember wishing, like, I wish most people would think like me. Then it happened. Then I go on Twitter and I have to listen to, I'll anonymously pop in on spaces and look at the content. I'm just like, actually, I wish it didn't happen. These are a bunch of grifting retards that are, and not all of them, but they're just like outright hateful. That was never my intention. I would say I would use like slurs and stuff like that because it's like, hey, look, you can't disrespect me. And think I can't just call you a really naughty name too. But today it's just like, oh yeah, they're only based and morally, like they can somehow become a Christian nationalist if you say the N-word and you're from your race. But the reality is that like Christian nationalism is 100% incompatible with ethno-nationalism. And that's like, you get retards like Nick Fuentes, who will, the Catholic Church, I would say, is like, obviously, you cannot be an ethno-nationalist. But you get this asshole, he just wants to run his fucking, I don't even know what the fuck this dude is, what the fuck is he doing? He's never had a girlfriend, he loved Catboy Cammy. He's been caught with like, gay porn during his lives. But at his age, he doesn't have any women. And I don't mean just because he's a homosexual, which I think is likely the case, that we should, like, not take anything he says seriously, but the far right has also become, like, the party, or at least when it comes to the younger generation, the party of incels, and the least, I would say, like, the men that are the farthest from what you would consider to be right-wing traditionally. Veterans, middle American laborers. They're just trash. They're contrarian trolls who, they can be Trump 1 minute, but then completely go the other way once they see the tide is like showing that the American, or at least for Americans, when the tide is shifting one way, they'll go the opposite. And I can't help but to think that a sodomite like Nick Fuentes is probably getting foreign money. And I would talk to, what the fuck is his face? Richard Spencer. He very deliberately denies this question, or avoids this question. Well, he's answering it directly, but he's pretty open about the fact that, like, there's some Russian involvement, like, on a large scale. But this is where we get our quote-unquote based takes from, as if Russia gives products. I don't know how we got into a topic about Jews and Israel.
The fucking jihadis.
Well,
they want to dream about Israel getting fucked up instead of dreaming about a better place for the Palestinians, about how they could maybe make a halfway functional city-state. They just focus on the negative or the positive.
Well, no, I think that here's the thing. I understand. I think that Israel